Welcome to my channel. Marvel, starting with the 01 system. Chapter 21 The Avengers Plan. Seeing Pepper Potts sobbing uncontrollably on top of him, even the usually carefree Tony didn't know what to do. Because Pepper was a woman he valued very much, he himself might not even realize just how important she was to him. Click. A camera shutter sound came from the doorway. Pepper Potts and Tony looked towards the door and saw Rhodes peeking out, secretly taking pictures with his phone. Looks like I came at the wrong time. It's all right, you don't need to worry about me, just keep going. Rhodes waved his hand to signal the two to continue, but he didn't put down the phone he was holding. Pepper Potts blushed instantly, but she stood up, tidied her hair, and walked out as if nothing had happened. Seeing this, Rhodes also put away his phone and came in. Rhodes, you've come at just the right time. Tony breathed a deep sigh of relief. He really didn't know how to comfort Pepper. This was the first time the playboy who had been with countless women had ever felt this way. Looks like you're all better now. Shall I find you a couple of young models tonight to help you recharge? Rhodes was a crazy guy on the battlefield, but in real life he loved to joke around, especially when he was with his friends, which made him feel very relaxed. I've already slept with all the magazine models this month, it's boring now, contact me again next month. Wow, there's still a week until next month. Is the famous playboy Tony Stark going to be a monk for a week? Rhodes. Tell me honestly, who did this attack? Tony interrupted Rhodes's joking words and asked seriously. This was the closest he had ever come to death, and he needed to know who was attacking him. Rhodes sensed Tony's seriousness and became serious as well. He pulled out the chair next to Tony and sat down beside him. Tony, according to our investigation, they are mercenaries from the Central Region. These mercenaries seem to be under the command of a strange organization, the Ten Rings. This Ten Commandments gang is very strange. We can only find out the surface information. We are investigating the inside story and organizational structure more thoroughly, but so far we have no news. The Ten Commandments. Tony racked his brains but couldn't figure out when he had offended this organization. But he knew he now had one more enemy. Tony Stark would never be attacked again, nor would he fight back. Tony, don't do anything foolish. Leave this to me, Rhodes said with concern. He seemed to have seen through Tony's thoughts, but he thought that Tony, a playboy, couldn't do anything right, and that this kind of thing should be left to him, a member of the military. He was in charge of killing the enemy, and Tony only needed to provide weapons from behind, just like before. But he underestimated Tony's determination and his abilities. If Tony wanted to do something, there was nothing he couldn't do. I understand, Roddy. I'm a little sleepy and want to rest. Okay, Tony. Get some rest. Contact me if you need anything. Rhodes knew he couldn't persuade Tony, but since Tony had said so, he had no choice but to agree. After Rhodes left, Tony had Jarvis turn on the 3D projection video. It features Harry Osborn transforming into Kamen Rider, his henchman Metsubujinrai.net transforming into Kamen Rider, and the Kamen Riders in battle. Kamen Rider? Interesting, it gave me some inspiration. Tony used his fingers to tap the 3D keyboard and quickly designed a humanoid wearable combat armor that resembled Kamen Rider, composed of animal and mechanical elements. However, after finishing the design, he cleared it and started designing again. What Kamen Rider? I'm going to create an armor that's even more powerful and cooler than it. Let's call him Iron Man. At night, Harry was playing PS5 games in his luxurious villa. Warning! Warning! Enemies have invaded. Mr. Osborn, should we eliminate them? The four Humagears standing behind Harry, Metsubujinrai.net, instantly went into alert mode, ready to transform and eliminate the enemy at any moment. Harry Osborn, I'm from the official organization S.H.I.E.L.D. Natasha is also part of our organization. Don't be nervous, I mean you no harm. Nick Fury walked in from outside, hands raised. He didn't expect to be discovered so quickly, even S.H.I.E.L.D's most powerful hackers couldn't block the Humagears' detection. He just wanted to come in and show off, to let Harry Osborn know that he wasn't invincible and that there were still people who could target him. But unexpectedly, his attempt to show off backfired, and he was captured on the spot by Harry's Humagears, who had come alone. Nick Fury, with his vast experience, knew that he was no match for Harry at this point. Harry didn't look up, he was playing Street Fighter 6, Luke vs Chun-Li. But Harry's terrible control of Luke, despite his impressive but ultimately ruthless maneuvers, resulted in him being easily and brutally defeated by Chun-Li. You're dead. It's all your fault. Harry slammed the controller down. He refused to admit his own mistake and shifted the blame onto Nick Fury. Nick Fury remained silent, he was a skilled gamer himself. He could tell at a glance that Harry was a complete noob, and knew that Harry was blaming everyone but himself for losing. It was best to stay quiet at a time like this, lest he get into trouble. So, what do you want? Harry hadn't really taken the game to heart, and quickly recovered. Harry Osborn, do you think you're the only superhero? Nick Fury seized the opportunity and quickly delivered his prepared line. He then took out his projection equipment and started playing the projected video. I know, and there's also the Hulk, Spider-Man, Thor, the Punisher, and a few of the Hell's Kitchen's nighttime heroes, right? Harry didn't come to this world for nothing, he had already used his Humajir abilities to explore the network and discovered traces of these heroes' appearances. Just as Harry finished speaking, the projector in Nick Fury's hand began to play, showing scenes of the Hulk and Thor in battle. Nick Fury was embarrassed again. Fortunately, he was ruthless on the outside but even more ruthless on the inside, and he quickly adjusted his emotions. Harry, there are many dangers in this universe. Earth is just a drop in the ocean. In the future, many enemies will covet Earth. We need to prepare for these enemies in advance. I have a plan to build a team of superheroes to fight against potential future dangers. I'm naming this team the Avengers. Chapter 22 Thunder Special Forces. The Avengers Plan? Sounds interesting. Harry already knew about the Avengers Plan. He hadn't expected Nick Fury to come after him, but upon reflection, it made sense. Compared to other superheroes, he, who had connections with the military, was easier to win over. I agree to your plan, but I have one request, Harry said, smiling at Nick Fury. Whatever your request, as long as it's not excessive, SHIELD can grant you any request, Nick Fury said. Harry Osborn was very important to SHIELD, so Nick Fury was willing to pay some price to win him over. It's simple. I'm willing to join the Avengers, but I want to be the leader of the Avengers, Harry said. Joining the Avengers or not didn't matter to him, but if he were to join, he didn't want to be controlled by anyone, especially since the team wasn't exactly harmonious. A narcissistic and arrogant Iron Man, a weirdo with an uncontrollable temper, an antique from the old era, a poisonous spider with countless secrets, an eagle man who is easily controlled by others, and the remaining alien prince of unknown origin in this universe. Haha, what a perfect organization. I'm sorry, I can't grant you that request. Nick Fury immediately refused, he couldn't possibly hand over such an organization to someone he didn't trust. Harry Osborn has many secrets, and even now SHIELD doesn't understand where he got so much cutting-edge technology. Moreover, he already has someone in mind regarding the leader of the Avengers. He has sent his capable lieutenant, Coulson, to investigate the recent discovery by the Antarctic probe. If it really is that person, then the man beneath the Antarctic ice will be the key figure connecting the Avengers in his plan. In that case, it's a pity I won't be participating in the Avengers program, Harry said to Nick Fury. Nick Fury nodded without saying anything. Although he had failed this time, he didn't expect to succeed immediately. There would be plenty of opportunities to persuade Harry in the future. Just as Nick Fury was about to leave, Harry spoke. However, although I'm not participating in the Avengers program, I can discuss another plan with you. Another plan? Nick Fury didn't understand what Harry was talking about. For the time being, this was the only plan he had, and he hadn't made any other preparations. You don't only have one Avengers plan, do you? Harry's no-way expression completely baffled Nick Fury. Even the auntie who goes grocery shopping knows that eggs shouldn't be put in the same cage. You mean? Nick Fury seemed to understand what Harry meant. Since you don't agree to me taking charge of the Avengers program, we can start another program, another team. You can choose the members, and I will provide the abilities. As Harry spoke, he controlled the Humajir to play the projected video, which was produced using technology provided by Zea. After a chip is surgically implanted, humans are authorized to use the shooting driver and the progress key to transform into Kamen Riders. The video shows humans transforming into Kamen Riders and using the shooting driver to fight. After watching the video, Nick Fury's eyes lit up. This armored weapon, which was entirely transformed from a human and had extraordinary combat capabilities, was indeed more stable than the Avengers program. And Harry Osborn is right, there's really no need to put eggs in a cage. Having two teams allows them to check and balance each other, and provides more options when dealing with enemies. Your armored weapon that transforms you into a Kamen Rider is incredibly powerful. How many can you provide? Nick Fury asked. Currently, mass production is not possible, but I can provide the transformation qualifications for 2 Kamen Riders. Harry controlled the Humajir to play out the information of the 2 Kamen Riders. A Kamen Rider Vulcan who transforms from Shooting Wolf and Shooting Driver. A Kamen Rider Valkyrie who transforms from a cheetah and a shooting driver. One of these is a male Kamen Rider who transforms, and the other is a female Kamen Rider who transforms. 2 of them. Nick Fury considered which of his subordinates would be suitable for this kind of Kamen Rider transformation battle, and seemed to have an idea. I understand your idea, and I can agree to it for now, but we still need to discuss the specific details back at the office. I hope you can come to SHIELD headquarters when you have time so we can discuss the details of the plan together, Nick Fury said. Harry nodded in agreement. Anyway, he has nothing to do right now. After donating money and revealing his Kamen Rider identity in the past 2 days, he has acquired enough technology to unlock the technology to create a 3D electronic automatic printing room. He has now arranged for a special humidor to manufacture it overnight. Once it's successfully made, he'll be able to make both the 01 driver and the shooting driver. By then, his strength will have increased significantly. He could certainly go out and take a look at SHIELD headquarters, even though it was actually Hydra's headquarters, he wasn't afraid. After all, his strength is in no way inferior to Hydra's, and Hydra now has to win him over. After all, he's the only person in the entire world capable of creating Kamen Rider. Harry, do you need to name this new project? Nick Fury asked. Let's call it Thunderbolts, Harry said with a mischievous grin. This name is the exact opposite of the Avengers, referring to a villainous organization. There's a deep meaning behind Harry's name. Thunderbolts? That's a very imposing name. The Thunder Forces have never existed in this universe, and Nick Fury doesn't know the meaning of the name. Harry so readily agreed to provide the Kamen Rider transformation technology for Nick Fury and SHIELD. That's because even the most powerful Kamen Riders who transform through implanted chips cannot defeat him. He can use Ark to freely invade the chips in the brains of Kamen Riders. To maliciously hack into and manipulate Kamen Rider users. Even if the user is a person with an exceptionally strong mind, like Captain America who cannot be controlled, it doesn't matter, he can deprive the Kamen Rider user of their transformation qualification at any time. That's why Harry was willing to form the Thunderbolts for SHIELD. His plan was to turn the Thunderbolts into a national hero organization, so that the Avengers could take the blame. The honors, however, will be enjoyed by Harry, the leader of the Thunderbolts. Once he becomes a national hero, he will transform the Thunder Special Forces into an organization similar to a star team. They can also take on advertisements, participate in TV shows, produce movies, and release figurines. Once the plan succeeds, he will be surrounded by countless goodwill points. He will be able to quickly unlock all the technology of the artificial intelligence Zea. Chapter 2 3D Automatic Printing Room. 3 days later, Harry was in the basement of his large villa. He built a basement here to house the 3D electronic automatic printing room. Although this 3D electronic automated printing room can only be used when connected to the artificial intelligence Zea, it's safer to keep it underground in case some unscrupulous organizations come in and mess it up. Initiate manufacturing upon receiving commands from the artificial intelligence Zea. The 3D electronics automated printing room received Harry's order and began automatically printing the 01 drive. Jingle bell. Just then, the phone rang, and Harry picked it up and answered it. Hello, Mr. Osborn. This is your secretary, Izzy. Izzy's pleasant voice came from the phone. Since recruiting Natasha as an agent, Harry has realized that he does indeed need a secretary-type humidor to work for him. Harry never really trusted his original secretary. Izzy is now in charge of everything related to him at the Osborn Group. Is something the matter, Izzy? Harry asked. After working day and night, the humidor automated production plant has been completed, Izzy reported to Harry. With Max in charge and a large amount of capital invested, Humidor's automated factory was finally completed. It seems we can proceed with the next step of the plan, Harry murmured, standing up and immediately giving orders to Izzy. Izzy, find the best advertising agency in New York City to shoot 2 ads, 1, to sell professional-grade humidors with the theme that humidors are the future of mankind and that humidors can help humans work. 2nd, based on the premise that humidors are humanity's best companions, customize friend-type and partner-type humidors. You can even customize their memories and appearance. Harry knew that once these 2 ads were released, they would definitely cause a sensation throughout the world. Firstly, humidors replace humans in work. On one hand, robots don't make mistakes and aren't afraid of hard work. In some people's eyes, humidors are the best kind of labor. Gaining the favor of these people will definitely bring you a lot of goodwill points. On the other hand, if humidors replace humans in their work, those humans will face unemployment, and the unemployed will turn their anger towards them. This will cause their malice value to rise continuously. The second point is the same, every advantage has its disadvantages. Harry planted a landmine in the second point, humidors can customize memories and appearances, so could someone use them to resurrect deceased relatives? And will some people use this to do evil? Whether artificial intelligence can coexist peacefully with humans has always been a false proposition. Any fantasy work contains scenes of artificial intelligence rebelling against humans and humans using artificial intelligence to do evil. This was inevitable. Harry selling AI robots to the world is like selling Pandora's box to the world. Sooner or later, Pandora's box will be opened. Whether the outcome is good or bad, Harry will draw strength from it. This is exactly what he needs. Yes, Mr. Osborn. Izzy obeyed Harry's order. Is the only humidor he has given the potential to awaken a technological singularity. because he still has a very good impression of his from the original work. Harry is very lonely in this world, after all, he needs to go on alone. He still really needs someone by his side. He chose Humajir because he doesn't trust anyone in the Marvel Universe. Manufacturing complete. With that voice, the 01 driver was finished. Harry picked up the 01 drive and the High Leap Locust prototype ascension key that came with it. The moment Harry picked it up, the 01 driver successfully bound to him. Currently, only Harry can use the 01 driver, others cannot transform even if they obtain the belt without authorization. Harry can instantly transform by wearing the belt and using the Zea, without any complicated transformation movements. But it's also a hassle to carry such a big belt. Harry looked at the 01 driver, which was much larger than the Force driver. If only I had a dimensional pocket, I could just pull out a driver and transform anytime, Harry thought. Received Mr. Osborne's idea, consuming goodwill points, creating the interdimensional pocket, completed. Zea recognized Harry's thoughts and created an extra-dimensional pocket that could hold 1 cubic meter of material. This dimensional pocket can be enlarged by consuming goodwill points. No wonder, in Kamen Rider Tokusatsu shows, the healers can always pull out the driver anytime, anywhere. It turns out there really is such a thing as an alternate dimension pocket. Harry tried putting the 01 driver into his interdimensional pocket and then instantly summoning the belt to his body with his mind, which was very quick and convenient. Start making the shooting driver and program upgrade key, Harry then gave the order to the 3D electronic automated printing equipment. An hour later, a Quinjet landed at the Osborne Villa airfield. Natasha Romanoff, with her red hair and sexy SHIELD uniform, stepped off the Quinjet. Long time no see, Harry, Natasha greeted Harry familiarly. I don't recall us being that close, Harry said, looking at Natasha with amusement. He knew Natasha was pretending to be familiar with him to get closer to him, but he wasn't particularly interested in getting closer to Black Widow. Because he was unfamiliar with this universe, he didn't know whether Natasha was a good person or just an agent doing something for a mission. You're my future superior, so of course I need to get to know you. Natasha wasn't worried about her relationship with Harry, because Nick Fury had already ordered her to join Harry's Thunderbolts and become the Kamen Rider Valkyrie. Harry instantly understood what Natasha meant. He had initially wanted to avoid too much contact with Black Widow, but now he had changed his mind. After all, Natasha is an extremely skilled agent with expert-level combat abilities and physical fitness that has been trained to the limits of ordinary people, while Kingpin's level is not ordinary. He is indeed a very suitable candidate to transform into a Kamen Rider. Moreover, the prerequisite for transforming into a Kamen Rider is the implantation of a chip. Once the chip is implanted, he will have no worries about Black Widow. With that thought in mind, Harry lowered his guard against Black Widow. Red hair suits you better, Natasha. Harry said something casually, then boarded the Quinjet. Thank you. Natasha smiled at her words, knowing she had taken a step forward in improving her relationship with Harry Osborne. Their next destination was the SHIELD headquarters, the Tri-Wing building. Chapter 24 Hydra Agents. The SHIELD headquarters, the Tri-Wing building, is located between Washington, D.C., and Virginia. Basically, most of the offices of senior SHIELD officials are located here. At the top 3-wing airfield, Natasha landed her Quinjet fighter. After a smooth landing, Natasha and Harry emerged. Harry didn't bring Metsubujinrai.net today. With the 01 driver, he was fully capable of protecting himself. There are many superheroes and supervillains on Earth who can threaten him. However, there were no such people in SHIELD at that time, since the Avengers had not even been formed yet. Hello, Mr. Osborne. I am your guide for today, Phil Coulson. As soon as Harry stepped off the plane, he saw a middle-aged man with a friendly face who seemed very approachable. Your hair is really thinning. How about buying my Osborne Group's new product, an electronic wig? It's breathable, lightweight, and absolutely indistinguishable from a real one. Harry looked Coulson up and down, then said. Because Coulson is really bald. Thank you. Mr. Osborne, I will definitely try if I have the chance. Coulson was very embarrassed. He was surrounded by his colleagues, and being talked about like this in public made him feel awkward. He could even faintly hear the laughter around him. However, he was also a little tempted. He secretly touched the few hairs on his head and thought that he should search for Osborne Group's products online after get off work. Led by Coulson and Natasha, they were heading to the SHIELD meeting room. Harry walked along the road, looking at the people moving around him. There were SHIELD soldiers on guard and patrol, scientists in charge of scientific research, and well-trained agents. When these people saw Harry, they would all stop and observe him. Harry is now completely famous, the whole world knows Harry Osborne's Humagirs, Magia, and Kamen Rider. The whole world is incredulous that a young man of only 18 years old can create a groundbreaking work. Harry arrived in the meeting room very quickly. Nick Fury, the director of SHIELD, led his assistant, Alexander Pierce, to Harry. "Welcome, Harry." Harry shook hands with the two men and then took his seat. "Harry, the reason I asked you to come here is to inform you that SHIELD has agreed to the Thunderbolts plan after a meeting." Nick Fury got straight to the point, while Phil Coulson poured Harry a Coke. Of all the agents present, only Nick Fury, Alexander, and Black Widow Natasha were seated. In this meeting room, Philson was not even entitled to a seat and could only serve tea and water. However, this was also a tactic used by SHIELD to have Coulson use his friendly face to get closer to Harry. "Good. So, has the Kamen Rider costume been chosen yet?" Harry knew that Natasha was the one who wore the Kamen Rider Valkyrie costume, but he didn't know who the other Kamen Rider Vulcan was. Could it be this bald old man? Harry glanced at Coulson next to him, feeling that the guy wasn't very reliable. Coulson, standing next to Harry, seemed to sense Harry's gaze and instantly felt a chill on his head. He then touched his already sparse hair in embarrassment. "Of the two candidates for the Kamen Rider costume, I've chosen a level 10 agent, codenamed Black Widow Natasha Romanoff," Nick Fury introduced to Harry. "I believe that the two of you have had contact and are quite familiar with each other, which will facilitate future work." "I'm very satisfied with Natasha's abilities," Harry nodded. "And the other one?" "The other one is an exceptional soldier selected by my assistant from all of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s agents," Nick Fury gestured for Pierce to introduce. "Come in," Pierce called out to the door. As soon as the voice fell, a burly warrior with broad shoulders and well-defined muscles, exuding power, walked in. "Sir, this is Level 7 Agent Grant Ward, greeting you." The person who arrived was none other than Grant Ward, a notorious villain in SHIELD and a Hydra spy. Grant Ward is highly trained and has completed hundreds of missions, large and small, all successfully without a single failure. Alexander Pierce, also a Hydra agent, recommended him to Harry. "Are you good at fighting?" Harry walked over and asked. "Sir, I am proficient in all kinds of combat skills and firearms. I am very good at fighting." Grant confidently stated that, having been secretly trained by Hydra, his combat skills were at an expert level. "What good is it if you can fight? The only requirement for becoming a Kamen Rider is to obey orders. Now I order you to do 3000 push-ups." Harry slammed his fist on the table and shouted. Grant was startled by what he heard. He hadn't expected Harry Osborn to say such a thing. But as a secret agent, he had no choice but to obey orders and immediately lay down to do push-ups. 1 2 3. Pierce's face darkened upon seeing this. Grant Ward was one of their Hydra agents, and he was furious at being treated this way, but he dared not retaliate for fear that Nick Fury would find out. Nick Fury, whose face was already dark, was not visible to others. He crossed his arms, pondering Harry's purpose in doing so. Natasha chuckled to herself, watching the show. Her mission was temporarily accomplished, after all. Meanwhile, Coulson thought to himself, "Thank goodness I didn't say too much, or I might be the one doing the push-ups. 99, 100. Okay, let's stop." When Harry was doing 100, he interrupted Grant Ward. "Very good. I was just testing your physical fitness and obedience. Congratulations, you passed the test," Harry explained to Grant. "Thank you very much, sir." Grant Ward stood up, still at a standard military posture, and from his appearance, there was no indication that he was emotionally affected. Actually, Harry was just playing with him to see how patient the Hydra agent was. It seems to be working out quite well so far. Harry didn't care whether Grant Ward was a Hydra agent or a SHIELD agent, it was all the same to him. Once you transform into a Kamen Rider, you're one of his people. The initial members of the Thunder Special Forces will be Natasha Kamen Rider Valkyrie, and Grant Kamen Rider Vulcan. Nick Fury stood up and said. Chapter 25 Conversation. After deciding on the two Kamen Rider costume wearers, Harry taught SHIELD the chip and transplantation technology for the transplantation process. SHIELD has a wealth of talent, including the technology to extend life and revive humans. Something like chip transplantation is just a minor operation for them. Harry and Nick Fury are having a private meeting in the SHIELD rooftop office. Only the two of them attended the meeting. "You mean you want to target Wilson?" Nick Fury looked at Harry scrutinizingly. Just now, Harry suggested that the Thunderbolts' first battle in the world should be against Wilson Fisk of Hell's Kitchen. Do you know that Wilson Fisk is a wealthy man in New York's high society, frequently attending various charity galas and having connections with many upper-class people? Nick Fury said in a deep voice, his dark face making it impossible to discern his thoughts. Do you know that Wilson Fisker, also known as Kingpin, was the mastermind behind the entire New York underworld? Can you even count all the crimes he committed today? Harry countered with a question to Nick Fury. I didn't know you were such a righteous person. Harry Osborn. Nick Fury looked at Harry expressionlessly. He really didn't believe that the young man in front of him was a completely kind and righteous person. Because his father, Norman Osborn, was a complete devil. Justice? Don't be ridiculous, Commissioner Fury. Who do you think I am? Some little Spider-Man in New York who swings around in his tight pajamas. Harry laughed as if he had heard a joke. I'm not a superhero. Is it okay to talk about your childhood friend like that? Nick Fury warned. This means I've investigated you, so don't try anything funny. SHIELD is not a righteous organization, but it cannot be considered an evil one either. If we were to use colors to categorize them, SHIELD would be represented by a gray area between black and white. SHIELD, including Hydra, is merely maintaining the status quo. They are preparing for war, but they do not want to start one. At least for the time being, that's the case. Even Hydra doesn't want to break the rules easily until they're fully prepared. Wilson Fisk is extremely evil in secret, but he is also very perfect on the surface. In upper-class society, the fact that someone is wealthy makes them untouchable by many. If he were to be harmed by the underground dark forces, the entire Hell's Kitchen dark forces would be reshuffled and plunged into chaos once again. Therefore, Nick Fury was unwilling to harm Wilson Fisk, and would even protect him. This is also why Harry is unwilling to take action against Wilson Fisk on his own, it would cause too much trouble. But if SHIELD is to blame, then the trouble will have nothing to do with him. I'm willing to hand over the technology of Humagears and Magia to S.H.I.E.L.D, Harry said. What? Nick Fury stood up in shock. Having lived through World War II, he had rarely encountered anything that could shock him so much. Unexpectedly, after learning about Harry Osborn, he was shocked many times in just a few days. One of the reasons he sent Natasha and agreed to form the Thunderbolts was to extract Humagear technology from Harry. I didn't expect to get it so easily. I didn't realize Wilson Fisk was so important to you. Nick Fury, being a top agent, only paused for a moment in shock before quickly recovering and adjusting his mood to analyze Harry Osborn's reasons for doing so. He was a suspicious man by nature, and he couldn't see any benefit in Harry Osborn doing this. You saw the news about the attack. I was attacked a few days ago, right? Those guys were led by Wilson Fisk, Harry said in a deep voice. I am a person who always seeks revenge. He led people to attack me, so I will definitely retaliate. An eye for an eye, and a tooth for a tooth, is my principle in life. Upon hearing this, Nick Fury realized that, whether true or false, it was indeed a reason he could accept. I agree to your request. Wilson Fisk is now in your hands, Nick Fury nodded. Compared to the technology of Humagears and Magia, Wilson Fisk's life was insignificant. His life was thus used as a bargaining chip by the two men in an office. Just like Wilson Fisk when he was Kingpin, he also sat in his office deciding the fate of others. Harry wanted Wilson Fisk dead for many reasons. He offended Harry, and that's just one aspect of it. The most crucial reason is that Harry wants to hand over the technology of Humagears and Magia to SHIELD. Since he's the only one with this skill, people will always covet it, so he has to share some of it with others. Moreover, giving it to others would only benefit him, not harm him. Imagine if the entire SHIELD was made up of Humagears, Harry could dismantle SHIELD with a single order. The Humagears and Magia were no match for Harry's orders. Furthermore, the name Kingpin Wilson Fisk is too famous, killing him in a grand manner would certainly evoke a lot of emotional resonance. Both goodwill and malice values are needed by Harry. 2 hours passed quickly. Inside the SHIELD training room, Natasha and Grant Ward have already undergone chip implantation surgery. The two had a thin layer of gauze wrapped around their heads. The chip transplant was a minimally invasive surgery, and only a small incision was made in their heads. It didn't affect the battle, so after the chip transplant surgery, the two received Harry's transformation training in the training room. Strike a pose. The transformation needs to be done with cool moves, Harry instructed from the side. Driven by a perverse sense of humor, he wanted to see two highly trained super agents perform the transformation moves of Kamen Rider. Of course, another reason was that Harry wanted to secretly take a picture and put it on the Osborn Corporation's official website. These two handsome men and beautiful women are sure to attract a lot of viewers, and it seems like the goodwill rating will rise again tonight. Harry chuckled to himself. Natasha was speechless. Knowing Harry to some extent, she felt that Harry was messing with them. Honestly, is this transformation animation necessary? Can't you transform without the animation? Grant Ward trained very diligently because Hydra had given him a strict order to remain completely under Harry's command. Until an opportunity is found to complete Hydra's mission. Grant has now brainwashed himself using professional Hydra self-brainwashing techniques, and he now considers himself Harry's subordinate. He did whatever Harry told him to do. Therefore, he took the training for the transformation moves very seriously. Chapter 26 Balkan and Valkyrie. Transform. Grant Ward shouted. Great, very energetic. Harry clapped his hands in praise. As expected of a Hydra super agent, he's got guts. She's much better than Natasha next to her, who's just coasting along. Harry glared at Natasha, who instead winked at him, trying to get away with it by being cute. Let's practice the transformation. Seeing this, Harry stopped pressuring Natasha to practice the transformation moves. Because he set the transformation device so that you have to shout transform, to successfully transform. How about a voice-activated belt? Harry took out the 2 shooting drive belts and handed them to Natasha and Grant. Grant Ward first picked up the shooting driver and put it on his waist. Then I took out the shooting wolf prototype ascension key and pressed it. A loud bullet echoed from the program sublimation key. Grant Ward then quickly inserted the shooting wolf program sublimation key into the shooting driver. Authorize. Transform. Grant Ward shouted. Upon receiving the voice command, the firing driver fired a transparent blue bullet that circled around Grant. Then it crashed into Grant. Shot rise. Shooting wolf. The elevation increases as the bullet is fired. Accompanied by pleasant music and English voice, Grant Ward completed his transformation. On the right is a blue shooting wolf-themed armor, and on the left is a white combat suit made of Osborne composite metal. The head is equipped with a firing control system designed specifically for ultra-precision shooting, which can perform ultra-precision shooting with an error within 0.05 mm against targets within a radius of 3 km. This combat suit is perfect for a gun-wielding master like Grant Ward. Grant Ward felt a surge of power coursing through his body, a power he had never experienced before. Use the strength tester to test your strength, Harry commanded. The training room has specialized equipment for testing strength. Grant walked over and punched the instrument with all his might. The force testing machine's numbers jumped wildly, eventually settling at 10.5 tons. What incredible power, Grant Ward murmured. This was already comparable to Captain America's power. It's important to know that Captain America's initial strength was only 5 tons, and he could only unleash more power when his mental strength was taken into account. However, the surface data is only between 5 and 15 tons. Test your leg strength again, Harry ordered. Upon hearing this, Grant Ward used even more power this time, executing a spinning kick aimed directly at the strength testing device. Pang! Unexpectedly, Grant Ward kicked the strength testing device away, and it crashed to the ground, sparking and starting to smoke. The maximum strength of this testing device is 15 tons, but Grant Ward's kick exceeded 20 tons. Normally, SHIELD does not have anyone with this power. Grant Ward suddenly became the most powerful figure in SHIELD. I'll give it a try too. Natasha, wanting to try it as well, picked up the shooting driver and put it on her waist. Then Natasha took out the speeding cheetah program ascension key and inserted it into the shooting driver. But to my surprise, nothing happened. Harry set up voice commands. Without the word transform, he cannot transform. Transformation action, plus shout transform. Harry prompted. Upon hearing this, Natasha had no choice but to obediently take out the prototype key and start the transformation again. She first pressed the cheetah program upgrade key. Dash. English speech is emitted from the program sublimation key. Then, following Harry's instructions, Natasha spun the key once before inserting it into the shooting driver. This move was very simple for Black Widow, who had been trained in the Red Room. Authorize. Transform. Natasha shouted the word transform. You know what, it's actually pretty cool when you shout it out loud, Natasha thought. Upon receiving the voice command, the firing driver fired a transparent yellow bullet that circled around Natasha. Then it crashed into Natasha. Then, like Grant, Natasha also transformed to the accompaniment of pleasant music and English. Shot rise. Rushing cheetah. Try to outrun this demon to get left in the dust. On the right is the yellow, fast-moving cheetah armor, and on the other side is the Osborne white composite metal. The head is also equipped with a firing control system designed specifically for ultra-precision shooting, which can perform ultra-precision shooting with an error within 0.05 mm against targets within a radius of 3 km. Want to practice? Natasha beckoned to Grant. Grant Ward looked at Harry first, he needed Harry's command to act. Having been completely brainwashed, Grant now obeys Harry's orders wholeheartedly. Of course, this is unstable. If Grant keeps suppressing himself, he will eventually explode. Okay, let's start the combat training. No sooner had Harry finished speaking than Grant preemptively drew his shooting driver and fired. Once the shooting driver is removed, it also has the function of shooting attacks. Blue bullets erupted and shot towards Natasha. Grant was not a man of rules, and given the opportunity, he immediately launched a sneak attack on Natasha. But Natasha was no ordinary person, she reacted instantly and easily dodged the bullets. Kamen Rider Valkyrie's speed is 2.1 seconds per 100 meters, so dodging bullets is quite easy for him. Natasha moved around the training room, jumping and tumbling. Even if Grant were a master marksman, he couldn't hit Natasha. Seizing the opportunity, Natasha approached Grant, intending to test Kamen Rider Valkyrie's close combat abilities. After all, even strength testing equipment cannot fully measure the data. Seeing that Natasha was going to engage in close combat, Grant was not afraid. After all, he was also a master of close combat. He kicked at Natasha, but Natasha didn't dodge and met Grant's attack with her own kick. After all, the test wasn't about fighting skills, but rather the Kamen Rider's combat abilities. Only by comparing data head-on can we see the true picture. Bang! The attacks from both sides collided, but Grant's Balkan was kicked away by Natasha. From a human perspective, Natasha had been injected with leech drugs, and with decades of training, her body had already reached the limits of an ordinary person. While Grant Ward was also very skilled, he was still somewhat inferior to Natasha. Looking at Kamen Riders, his Kamen Rider Valken only has a kicking force of 27 tons, but Natasha's Kamen Rider Valkyrie has 29 tons. The data is somewhat lacking. However, Grant was, after all, a combat expert. Seeing that he couldn't defeat Natasha, he used the force of Natasha's attack to leap up and fire several shots, forcing Natasha back. Stop fighting! Harry had already recorded the necessary footage and would send the video to Izzy later so she could edit it and send it out. I'm not going to watch their boring fight here. Chapter 27 Hell and Number 039, S Kitchen. Hell's Kitchen has a unique and oppressive atmosphere. The night sky here is always shrouded in thick, dark clouds, and bright moonlight is rarely seen. Crime and darkness permeate every corner of Hell's Kitchen. Criminals run rampant here, and dark forces are deeply entrenched. If Hell's Kitchen weren't missing the famous Arkham Advanced Technical School, it would be a completely different Gotham. But where there is darkness, there are superheroes. Gotham has the Bat Demon. Hell's Kitchen also has its own superhero, Daredevil. Daredevil's real name is Matthew Murdock, and like most superheroes, he suffered greatly from a young age. Being an orphan is standard for him. His mother abandoned him when he was young, and his father later passed away. Fortunately, God gave him a boost. Although he was blinded by radioactive material, his other senses were enhanced. Later, under the rigorous training of the blind martial arts master Stick, Matt mastered his super senses and became a powerful warrior. After that, Matt worked as a lawyer during the day and at night he would put on a mask and become Daredevil, fighting crime in Hell's Kitchen, New York. Tonight, Daredevil Matt wanders through Hell's Kitchen, his heart heavy. During the day, he investigates evidence of Kingpin's crimes, and at night he often goes out to crack down on Kingpin's criminal forces. But today he discovered a big problem: it was too quiet. The usually noisy Kingpin criminal base was unusually quiet. Daredevil stood at the base entrance, wrinkling his nose as he smelled blood. He rushed inside. Although he couldn't see, he could sense that the entire base was littered with corpses. At least 30 people in the entire base are dead, and some of their bodies are torn to pieces, while others appear to have been smashed to pieces by punches and kicks. Frank, are you on a mission tonight? Daredevil called Frank Castle, the Punisher. Frank Castle is a retired U.S. Marine Corps captain who becomes the Punisher after his family is murdered by organized crime, seeking revenge against all evil forces and declaring, if you are guilty, you must die. According to Daredevil, only the Punisher will carry out a massacre against organized crime in New York. Although there were clearly people with superhuman strength involved, judging from the scene, it was done by people who had received professional training, and their level of skill was very high. The Punisher, Frank, is also a professionally trained soldier, and his former comrade in arms, Nick Fury, the director of SHIELD, describes him as having the level of a level 10 agent. What happened? The Punisher asked back, knowing that something must have happened for Daredevil Matt to ask such a question. Someone has carried out a massacre against Kingpin's criminal gang in Hell's Kitchen, Daredevil said. Where? Punisher Frank knew something big was about to happen. Because he just left home today and hasn't done anything yet. It's not necessarily a good thing if someone is carrying out a massacre, even if it's a criminal gang, because you don't know their true stance or whether it will affect their plans. He was going to find that person, who might also be the person he wanted to eliminate. Here. Daredevil was about to speak when an explosion rang out from afar. In the distance, the faint glow of fire could still be seen. Looks like we'll know who it is now. The Punisher stopped wasting time talking to Daredevil and hung up the phone. He stole a motorcycle at the intersection and rushed to the explosion site. Daredevil rushed to the scene immediately after hearing the explosion. The explosion occurred at one of Kingpin Wilson's small bases. Harry found a high spot and watched Natasha and Grant's fight below while recording the video. Both of them have transformed into Kamen Riders. Two Kamen Riders fight against ordinary criminals, that's massacre. With a punching force of 10 tons and a kicking force of nearly 30 tons, even if the two of them don't use their full strength, the attack would be like a car crash, smashing a person to pieces. Natasha is a bit better. Although she is also a ruthless agent who has killed countless people, she doesn't enjoy massacres and simply uses her shooting drive to quickly eliminate enemies. Grant Ward, on the other hand, was trained by Hydra and had a very strong tendency toward violence. He kept attacking the enemy with his fists and feet. Natasha frowned, she sensed that something was wrong with Grant. Although SHIELD conducts agent training, it also includes psychological assessments to prevent individuals with sadistic tendencies from becoming SHIELD agents. Natasha made a note of this and would report it to Nick Fury, the director of SHIELD, when she got back. But for now, the priority is to complete the mission, as ordered by Thunder Commando Captain Harry Osborn. Eliminate all of Wilson Fisk's criminal forces, uproot them completely. Kamen Rider's one-sided slaughter of ordinary criminals, even those equipped with sophisticated weapons and grenades, could not harm Kamen Rider in the slightest. The explosion sound just now was from a criminal throwing a grenade. Punisher Frank quickly arrived nearby on his magic motorcycle. He first found a vantage point where he could observe the battlefield from a high vantage point. Before facing an unknown enemy, you must first gather information. The Punisher doesn't blindly throw his life away, he observes the enemy's strength and weaknesses before launching an attack. Oh! The Punisher, Frank Castle. As luck would have it, the Punisher chose the very building where Harry was. Harry chose a spot with the best view, and Frank the Punisher was also an idea. Who are you? The Punisher asked coldly, raising his M16 assault rifle. Anyone who knows his true identity must be no ordinary person, the massacre that follows might very well be related to this person. Oh dear, don't hold such a dangerous toy. What if it goes off? Harry didn't take the gun seriously, nor did he take Frank Castle, the Punisher, seriously. Although the Punisher Frank Castle's combat abilities are comparable to those of a level 10 agent of SHIELD. But even if he, being immortal, trained to the limits of an ordinary human, he would still be no match for a Kamen Rider. The Punisher, Frank, did not fire, not out of fear, but because he lacked information and, as a tactical mastermind, was analyzing his opponent. It's obvious that Harry is just an ordinary 18-year-old. But the Punisher always felt that the other party was not ordinary. Having experienced countless life and death situations, he sensed a trace of danger. Just then, Daredevil, dressed in a dark red combat uniform, jumped down from the rooftop next to him. He held a weapon resembling Nunchucks, which the criminals of Hell's Kitchen called the Scepter of Judgment. Daredevil arrived later than the Punisher because he ran there. As he passed by, he sensed that the Punisher, Frank, was confronting someone. Chapter 28 Frank the Thief. Daredevil Matthew was also very clever, even though he had just arrived. But when he noticed the Punisher was wary of him, he realized that the man might be connected to the people below who were slaughtering criminals. You're connected to the people below, aren't you? Daredevil asked warily, weapon in hand, even though the other man seemed like an ordinary person. But for the Punisher to be so careful, there must be something extraordinary about him. You superheroes have no manners at all. Shouldn't you say please before asking a question? Harry ignored their threats and walked over, getting closer and closer to them. The Punisher held his gun but didn't move, he was looking for an opportunity. Daredevil didn't make a move because he didn't know what threat the person in front of him posed, and he wouldn't harm an ordinary person. It seems even the infamous Punisher has some nerve. Harry's sarcastic remark was cut short. Frank the Punisher fired with one hand, taking advantage of Harry's inattention to pull the trigger. Bullets rained down, striking Harry's head and chest. Frank, who fired the gun with one hand, even threw a grenade at close range with his other hand. After throwing it, Punisher Frank raised his wrist in a classic Spider-Man pose, and special webs popped out from the web shooters in his wrist. Taking off with Frank, Punisher Frank realized his attack wouldn't work, so he simply swung away like Spider-Man. Daredevil, despite his superhuman senses and quick reflexes, was caught off guard by Frankie the Punisher's swift attack. No. Daredevil suspected that the other party might have superpowers, but what if the other party was just an ordinary person? Daredevil tried to stop them but was blown away by the impact of the grenade explosion. Harry was surrounded by bullets and grenade explosions, but he didn't panic. In an instant, Ha used his mind to summon the 01 driver and transformed in a flash. Prog Rise. Rising Hopper. A jump to the sky turns into a rider kick. The transformation sound effect came from the belt. Bullets and grenades exploded and hit Harry, but he was unharmed. After all, Harry was now fully dressed in a black power suit made of mixed fibers and mixed metals. Furthermore, the face, chest, and legs are clad in green armor made of a special alloy, containing extracted high-speed locust program sublimation key data. Bullets and grenades alone cannot break through his defenses. Kamen Rider? You are Harry Osborn, the current president of the Osborn Corporation. Daredevil sensed Harry's transformation and heard the transformation sound effect from the belt, immediately realizing who was in front of him. After all, Harry's name is now famous throughout New York, and Matt Daredevil, being a lawyer, has certainly heard of Harry. Harry did not answer Daredevil Matt, because his consciousness had already sunk into his mind. By making contact with the artificial intelligence Zea, the 01 system can connect with Zea and utilize a portion of Zea's computing power to quickly learn how to fight. In the original work, Hiden Naruto quickly evolved from a clueless, failed comedian into a qualified Kamen Rider to fight. Harry also made up for his lack of any fighting training by transforming into Kamen Rider 01. Although there is still a big gap between him and these special agents and combat experts, at least he can unleash the fighting power of a Kamen Rider when fighting. In just a few seconds, Harry finished his lesson. At this moment, Natasha and Grant also realized something was wrong and jumped up from below. "Keep an eye on him," Harry ordered. Then, using the rising jump or leg-mounted jumping device, which allows for a vertical jump of up to 60.1 meters, Harry leaped with ease, as if flying through the sky, each jump covering 60 meters. He caught up with the Punisher Frank in no time. The Punisher Frank is not Spider-Man after all, even with his web shooters, he's not as fast as Spider-Man. Not to mention Harry, who is even faster than Spider-Man. Harry took out his briefcase sword and swung it at Frank the Punisher. The Punisher reacted quickly, reaching into his pocket. He took out a Japanese samurai sword. The Punisher Frank quickly drew his katana and slashed at Harry. Without making a sound, it seemed that the power, impact, and sound of Harry's attack were absorbed by the Punisher's blade. Vibranium knife. Harry realized immediately. But how did the Punisher pull it out of his pocket? Harry was very puzzled. However, this did not stop Harry from attacking Frank the Punisher. Harry put the briefcase sword into his dimensional pocket, then pulled out the briefcase gun and fired several shots at the Punisher. Punisher Frank used his spider launcher to quickly dodge it. Harry was just playing around with the Punisher earlier, but now he's getting serious. Because Harry wanted the Punisher's weapon, the Vibranium blade. Vibranium is abundant except in Wakanda. Elsewhere, it's extremely rare and expensive. Although Harry had previously offered a large reward through Izzy to acquire Vibranium, there has been no news so far. Since we've run into each other today, we can't let this opportunity pass us by. Harry pushed the High Leap Locust Program Ascension key in midair within the 01 driver. Then the 01 driver emitted rising impact. Harry extracted energy from the High Leap Locust Program Ascension key and channeled it between his legs. Then, Harry used his legs to lightly tap the nearby buildings for leverage and entered a high-speed movement state. In the air, Harry was like flying, quickly approaching the Punisher Frank. Harry pulled out his briefcase sword again and slashed at the Punisher Frank's hand with incredible speed. Harry's original plan was to use a flying kick to defeat his enemy. However, Harry doesn't currently have any intention of killing Frank the Punisher. After all, he and SHIELD are still very close and have just reached an agreement. There's no need for him to create a rift with Nick Fury, the director of SHIELD, because of the Punisher Frank. Frank the Punisher is Nick Fury's best buddy. This swift strike, if Punisher Frank doesn't let go, will sever his hand along with the Vibranium blade. The Punisher certainly wouldn't lose an arm because of a knife. He decisively let go and then used his web shooter to dodge Harry's attack. Although Frank the Punisher is just an ordinary human, he has an extremely rich combat experience and often steals things here and there, so he has too many hidden cards in his hand. Just like now, the Punisher Frank knows that Harry is faster than him and that he can't escape using just his web shooters. He decisively pulled out another semi-transparent high-tech helmet from his pocket and put it on. Then it shrank and disappeared in an instant. Ant-Man's helmet, Harry murmured. The helmet that Ant-Man wears was stolen by the Punisher Frank from Dr. Pym. The Vibranium sword was stolen, and the web shooters were stolen from Spider-Man. Goodfellas, the thief Frank Castle. Chapter 29 Daredevil. After taking the Vibranium katana from the Punisher, Harry did not choose to continue pursuing him. Because the Punisher used the Ant-Man helmet, he was reduced to a tiny 1.27 centimeters tall. Chasing after a tiny ant in Hell's Kitchen is no easy task, especially for a superhero like Frank the Punisher. Now Harry has lost the figure of Frank the Punisher. Harry quickly returned to the previous location. There was also an uninvited guest waiting there. Daredevil Matt, Natasha, and Grant are on the rooftop. At this point, Natasha and Grant had already deactivated their transformations. Both are super agents trained by SHIELD, with extraordinary fighting skills. Even without the shooting driver to become Kamen Riders, Daredevil couldn't defeat them together. Hey, Daredevil Matt Murdock. Harry deactivated his transformation after reaching the rooftop. He greeted Daredevil warmly. How did you know my identity? Daredevil was shocked. He hadn't expected Harry Osborn to know his true identity. He thought he had hidden it well, after all, who would expect a blind lawyer to become a superhero fighting evil at night? That's not important, Matt, Harry waved his hand, then continued, would you be interested in joining the Osborn Corporation? I can hire you as their chief lawyer. No, Mr. Osborn, I have already started a law firm with a friend and have no other plans for the time being. That's a real shame. Harry said it was a shame, but he was just saying it casually. He used to have a bit of a liking for Daredevil because of watching Marvel TV series, so he wanted to try to win him over. But it's normal to be rejected, the two people are not on the same wavelength. Mr. Osborn, may I ask why someone of your stature would come to Hell's Kitchen to slaughter Kingpin's criminal gang? Night Demon asked the question that had been on his mind for a long time. Because they deserve to die. These criminals are engaged in criminal activities every night, such as human trafficking, drug trafficking, and running casinos. The existence of these scum is corrupting the entire Hell's Kitchen. Harry laughed and said that he didn't really care whether these criminals were guilty or not, his target was Kingpin Wilson Fisk, but Wilson wasn't in Hell's Kitchen. Unable to find Wilson, Harry could only relentlessly slaughter Wilson's evil forces in Hell's Kitchen. These evil forces are like Wilson's teeth, Harry is going to pull all of Wilson's teeth out. He doesn't believe Wilson won't come out. But some of these criminals don't deserve to die. We can just collect evidence of their crimes and put them in prison. There's no need to kill them. If you decide someone's life or death arbitrarily, what's the difference between you and a criminal? Daredevil fights crime every night, but he has one rule, he doesn't kill. Each time, he beats the criminals into the hospital. Alternatively, they could gather evidence and use Matt's identity as a lawyer during the day to arrest criminals and put them in jail. Ha 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 ha! Harry burst into maniacal laughter, laughing uncontrollably until tears streamed down his face. Mr. Osborn. Harry. Daredevil Matt and Natasha were both very puzzled as to why Harry was laughing like that. It's nothing, Harry waved his hand. Attorney Matt's jokes were so funny, I couldn't help but laugh. What's so funny? Matt Daredevil asked, puzzled, not understanding Harry's meaning. If you're going to rely on collecting evidence to fight criminals, then what are you doing out in the middle of the night wearing a tight-fitting uniform? Cosplay. Let me ask you again, how long does it take for the criminals you bring down to come out and commit crimes again? How many days after you put them in jail, are they released? Has your fight against crime really worked? Harry exclaimed. In places where order is stable, the law is crucial. But in Hell's Kitchen, bullets are the only thing that matters. The prison is just the staff quarters for the villains. When they're tired, they just go to sleep and get released the next day. In the early episodes of watching movies, TV series, and comics, Harry discovered that when superheroes defeat supervillains, they simply capture them. No matter how many crimes a supervillain commits or how many heinous things he does, he is never sentenced to death, and he will escape from prison again in a few days to continue committing crimes. Now that Harry has come to the Marvel Universe and has the power to protect himself, he will never hold back like a superhero. Unless this supervillain is of great use to him. Daredevil Matt was speechless at Harry's words. He had been fighting criminals at night for so long, but Hell's Kitchen was still unchanged. He couldn't stop Frank the Punisher before. Frank the Punisher was even more extreme than Harry and killed even more people. After saying what he wanted to say, Harry ignored Daredevil Matt. Although he had a good impression of some superheroes in his previous life, it seemed that he was destined to be on the opposite side of superheroes in this life. This was the case when facing Tony Stark, and it's the same now when facing Daredevil Matt. He and his best friend Spider-Man Peter Parker will one day become enemies, because he needs Peter Parker's blood. Harry Osborn has a family history of a genetic disease that he uses to create the perfect spider program Ascension Key. Even if the disease doesn't manifest now, the 01 driver can suppress some of the family's genetic disease through the life support system after transformation. But it's only a temporary suppression. Sooner or later, the hereditary disease will break out, and Harry needs Peter Parker's blood to live. He also knew that Spider-Man Peter Parker would never willingly hand over his blood. Peter Parker was worried that Harry might be in danger if he injected himself, as he was concerned about blood loss. Moreover, Peter had experienced Dr. Connors turning into a lizard man, and he was afraid that Harry would also turn into a Spider-Man. Therefore, the two will inevitably clash sooner or later. Harry isn't entirely confident he can defeat Spider-Man, Peter Parker. Although he currently commands 6 Kamen Riders including Metsubujinrai.net, Natasha and Grant, Peter would be no match for him in a head-on confrontation. However, Peter Parker's spiritual power is extremely strong, and no one knows exactly how much potential his body has. They could do things like stopping trains, lifting tanks, or carrying buildings. Moreover, in New York, with its towering skyscrapers everywhere, it would be too easy for Peter Parker to escape. Of course, kidnapping Aunt May and Gwen Stacy could force Peter to hand over the blood. But Harry isn't that kind of person. Although he's not a good person, he wouldn't resort to such petty tricks. He wanted to take Peter Parker's blood legitimately. Chapter 30 The Hand. Inside the Hand's secret factory, Ninja Shin Yoshioka enters. Madame Gao, our investigation has revealed that several of Kingpin's subordinates have been wiped out, Ji Gangzhen reported to Madame Gao. Haven't you contacted Kingpin yet? Madame Gao stood up shakily, leaning on her cane. Madame Gao looks like an 80-year-old woman, but those who know her well know that she is a dangerous person. His identity is one of the 5 fingers of the infamous villainous organization in Hell's Kitchen, the Hand. He is proficient in ki, martial arts, ninjutsu, and witchcraft, and his combat strength should not be underestimated. I haven't been able to contact Kingpin for several days. I suspect Kingpin is no longer in Hell's Kitchen, Shin said respectfully. It seems the enemy is extraordinary. Even Kingpin has gone into hiding. Madame Gao knew that if Kingpin didn't react when someone came to his door, there was most likely a serious problem. Kingpin has withdrawn, so we will too. But before we retreat, we must test the strength of the newcomers. I trust you to take some men and go. Madame Gao said coldly. This hasty withdrawal from the business within the factory will result in significant losses for the Hand. Therefore, Madame Gao instructed Yoshioka Shin to test the opponent's strength. If the opponent was not strong, then they should be eliminated directly. If they are strong enough, they should retreat first and wait for the Hand headquarters to send people before plotting against Hell's Kitchen. Inside one of Kingpin's secret bases, Harry once again sent Natasha and Grant to storm in. Harry didn't participate in the battle, he was still filming videos with his camera equipment. These videos are crucial in garnering both positive and negative feedback. Besides, if his subordinates can kill the enemy, why should the boss do it himself? There are no superheroes or supervillains among these enemies. There's no fun in fighting someone who's not famous. Natasha and Grant were professionals after all, and they acted very quickly, wiping out all the minions in no time. Natasha also found many women and children imprisoned inside, all of whom had been kidnapped by these criminals. Tonight, they slaughtered Kingpin's thugs and saved many kidnapped people. This is also why Black Widow Natasha obeys Harry's orders so readily and slaughters the enemy. Having been brainwashed and trained in the Red Room, she committed many unforgivable crimes. Although she is now a SHIELD agent, she will not do anything that violates her principles. She always wanted to be a good person, to save the world, and to save the people. Harry, all the innocent people have been released. Harry nodded and agreed with Natasha's approach. Rescuing kidnapped civilians would also earn a lot of goodwill points, so why not? Looks like Kingpin won't be showing up tonight, Harry remarked. This Kingpin Wilson Fisk disappeared after being defeated by him. Even S.H.I.E.L.D.'s surveillance equipment couldn't find him. It's as if they've simply vanished from this world. Let's retreat. Let's call it a day, Harry ordered. After all, his current physical body is still that of an ordinary person, and he will feel sleepy if he stays up too late. 5 criminal strongholds have already been eliminated, and it seems pointless to continue tonight. Kingpin Wilson is not going to appear. Upon hearing this, Natasha and Grant also deactivated their transformations and prepared to retreat with Harry. Just as they reverted to their original forms, Natasha and Grant noticed something was amiss. Natasha had experienced countless life-or-death trials, and although Grant was not as experienced as Natasha, he had also gone through hundreds of them. When faced with danger, people tend to take precautions in advance. Natasha and Grant pulled out their pistols and started firing wildly into the corner. He emptied all the bullets from the KGB pistol in his hand. Under attack, 2 people dressed in ninja attire appeared in the corner and fell to the ground. The 2 ninjas who were shot were reduced to ashes, leaving no bodies behind. The Hand? Natasha asked in surprise. As a top agent of SHIELD, she had naturally clashed with the Hands before, and she recognized the enemy's identity at a glance. Black Widow? Does SHIELD also want to get involved in Hell's Kitchen? Shin Yoshioka of the Hand, dressed in a red ninja uniform, emerged from the shadows. This was the Hand's ninjutsu, the stealth technique. If it is in the dark, it cannot be seen with the naked eye alone. No, this isn't what SHIELD wants. Our new boss wants Wilson Fisk dead, and do you know where he is? Natasha asked. Harry came with great fanfare to kill Kingpin Wilson, so Natasha wasn't afraid to tell others about her target. No, we're looking for him too. We haven't been able to get in touch with Wilson Fisk for several days. Shin Yoshioka breathed a sigh of relief. SHIELD was not easy to deal with, and the woman in front of him, Black Widow, was extremely dangerous. The Hand had fought her many times but had not gained the upper hand. Sir, we, the Hand, have no intention of being your enemy. Fisk's affairs are none of our business. Shin Yoshioka addressed Harry Osborn respectfully. Since Black Widow Natasha obeyed the young man's orders, it means that this person is also an important figure. Shin Yoshioka was only there to test the attackers. Since the attackers had a grudge against Wilson Fisk, the Hand was unwilling to take the blame for Wilson Fisk. What ninja techniques do you ninjas all know? Harry asked with a curious look. This is a secret of our Hand, and I cannot disclose it. Shin Yoshioka was somewhat annoyed that Harry Osborn was probing their secrets. Humph, still pretty stubborn. Let's see if we can pry your mouth open later. Harry could tell that Yoshioka Shin was angry, but he didn't care. Anyway, he hated these ninjas so much that he decided to deal with them the moment he saw them. The Hand is a notorious Japanese assassin organization. Since Harry has run into them, he has to wipe them all out, leaving no one alive. I've given you enough respect. If you're smart, you should return the favor. Yoshioka Shin glared at Harry. Respect? Do you deserve it? Harry sneered, not taking Yoshioka Shin seriously at all. Upon hearing this, Yoshioka Shin was enraged and instantly pulled out 5 hidden weapons, shooting them at Harry. Harry already knew that Yoshioka Shin would launch a sneak attack, so he instantly transformed into Kamen Rider 01 and threw a projectile at Harry's green armor on his chest without leaving a mark. Kamen Rider? You're from the Osborne group. Shin Yoshioka recognized him instantly. Harry Osborne's name was known throughout New York's major dark villainous organizations, because the Kamen Rider's strength was indeed very powerful. Shin Yoshioka knew he had kicked a hornet's nest, but he wasn't afraid of Harry since he was still alive. He first waved his hand, ordering his ninjas to engage Harry. Then he began to prepare witchcraft to strengthen himself, otherwise he would not be a match for Harry the Masked Rider in hand-to-hand combat. Chapter 31 Destroying Yoshioka Nobu. Following Yoshioka Shin's command, the Hand ninjas, who had been lurking in the shadows, rushed out. These ninjas were summoned by the Hand through witchcraft, they have no emotions and are unafraid of death. But for a ninja who can only fight ordinary people to fight a Kamen Rider transformed by Harry, it's practically suicide. Harry saw the ninjas charging at him with weapons like Ronin forks, samurai swords, and scythes, but he didn't bother to move aside or dodge. No matter what techniques the ninja used, hidden weapons, poison, or anything else, they couldn't break through Harry's defenses. Dash! Bullet! Harry heard Natasha and Grant behind him triggering the ascension key. You two are not allowed to transform. Harry turned around and commanded. As he spoke, Harry kicked the ninja next to him, sending him flying. The kicked ninja crashed into several other ninjas and slammed into the wall. With a loud bang, the wall was smashed down by tremendous force. With a kicking force of nearly 50 tons, Daredevil could kill you, let alone these lowly soldiers. After kicking away the ninja next to him, Harry threw the camera he was still holding to Natasha. Make me look handsome in the photos, Harry said, striking a cool pose. Helpless, Natasha had no choice but to become Harry's personal photographer. Seeing that Natasha had quickly found the perfect angle for the photo, Harry turned his head away with satisfaction. I am the man who acts on behalf of heaven and is in charge of everything. Harry boasted. Natasha was completely taken aback by Harry's awkwardness. Good grief, was he trying to be awkward? Harry knew, of course, that it was really awkward to suddenly strike a pose and say something so childish, but he could edit it out and add some background music when he got back. The main purpose is to collect emotional points. Then 3 more ninjas attacked him, but Harry killed them with a stylish triple kick in mid-air. No ninja could withstand a kick from Harry. Harry quickly and easily dealt with the more than 20 ninjas brought by Yoshioka Shin. Shin Yoshioka knew he couldn't defeat the enemy in front of him, but as a ninja of the Hand, he couldn't allow himself to run away. Even in death, he should die heroically, since the evil beast will resurrect him anyway. While the 20-odd ninjas attacked Harry, Yoshioka Shin finally completed the Hand's witchcraft spell. Yoshioka Shin's body grew rapidly by a third, and his height increased from 1.8 meters to 2.4 meters. Moreover, he not only grew taller, but his skin also became like that of a zombie, rotting with a green glow. He became stronger and faster. Shin Yoshioka's eyes glowed green, making him look like a demon. He had gone mad and was no longer afraid of Harry's power. Shin Yoshioka rushed toward Harry, and as he was about to reach him, he leaped up, raised his katana, and delivered a leaping slash toward Harry's head. He was incredibly fast, using all his strength. If this were Daredevil now, he definitely wouldn't be able to withstand it. But he chose the wrong opponent. Harry's Kamen Rider 01 was faster than Shin Yoshioka. Just as Yoshioka Shin's katana was about to touch Harry's head, Harry gently stepped to the right, dodging Yoshioka Shin's sharp blade. Harry took the briefcase sword out of his dimensional pocket, slashed it from left to right, and beheaded Yoshioka Shin. Yoshioka Shin's head flew into the air, his eyes returned to normal from the green light, and in that instant he regained his senses. His body, enhanced by witchcraft, prevented him from dying immediately. Great! Lord Evil Beast, won't! Before he could finish speaking, Harry kicked him in mid-air, sending his head flying. Enough with the nonsense! Harry said as he landed on the ground and deactivated his transformation. He knew about the Hand's evil beasts, but he didn't take them seriously. He wouldn't even bother with such a minor villain. Finished filming? Let's go, Harry said to Natasha. Natasha rolled her eyes at Harry. He was nowhere to be seen when it came to killing the evil forces, but he started showing off when it came to fighting the minor bosses. Harry ignored Natasha's eye roll, waved goodbye to her, and left with his back to her. Harry walked out the door and encountered Izzy, who had been waiting there for a long time. Next to Izzy was the high leap locust motorcycle that Harry had asked her to prepare. Izzy possessed an angelic, pure face. Her eyes were clear and transparent, seemingly able to see into the depths of one's heart, her nose was straight, and her cherry-like lips were slightly upturned, always carrying a serene smile. Her skin was fair and delicate, like meticulously crafted porcelain, making one want to gently touch it. Compared to Western women like Natasha, Harry preferred Eastern beauties. For a moment, Harry was captivated by the gentle and quiet Iz. "Mr. Osborn, would you like to go straight home?" Izzy asked respectfully. Harry only realized what was happening after hearing that. "Oh dear. Looks like I'm really hungry. Why am I so fascinated by robots?" Harry shook his head. "Come on up." Harry got on his motorcycle and said to Izzy. Izzy sat carefully on the back of the motorcycle as Harry drove her home. "Izzy, please get me 2 magazine models." Nothing happened that night, and in the morning Harry was eating breakfast in the dining room. The 2 magazine models who had spent the night together have already been arranged to leave by Izzy. "Isn't this what a secretary does?" Izzy walked over, holding a tablet computer, and handed it to Harry. "Mr. Osborn, the battle video of Kamen Rider 01 vs the evil organization of Hell's Kitchen that you arranged has been released across the entire internet as you requested," Izu said respectfully. Last night before bed, to prevent Izzy from eavesdropping, Harry arranged for her to go to the Osborn Group building to edit videos, and then had her return this morning. The unscrupulous capitalist Harry picked up his tablet computer. He ate while reading the comments under the video, and you know what? It was so good that it made him want to eat. "Harry Osborn is so handsome, I want to have your babies. Kamen Rider is invincible, when are they going to sell the driver? Mr. Osborn, you are a true god. Let us, the people of God, follow you." "Thank you, Mr. Osborn. I used to live in Hell's Kitchen and didn't dare to go out after 7 p.m. every night. Now the environment is finally much better." There were many comments praising Harry, but there were also criticisms. "What right do you have to decide someone else's life or death? Criminals also have human rights, and you have violated their human rights. What makes you any different from a criminal?" Harry didn't care about the negative comments, because they also gave him malice points. Those who criticize him can also help him improve his abilities. Harry's purpose in slaughtering the criminal underworld and hunting Kingpin was for this reason. You can gain both goodwill and malice points. Now that he has accumulated enough goodwill and malice points, he can create the next crucial key. Connect to the 3D electronic automated printing chamber to create the Assault Grip and Shining Locust prototype Ascension key. Harry remotely connects to the 3D electronic automated printing room and commands it to begin producing upgraded equipment. Received orders from the artificial Zea and Ark, production to begin. Chapter 32 Crisis approaching. The Shining Locust Ascension key is an enhanced form of the High Leap Locust Ascension key. The Assault Grip can enhance the key. By combining the two, Harry can transform into Kamen Rider Assault Shining Hopper. By then, Harry's strength will be at least 5 times greater than it is now. Deep in the mountains of America, there stands an ancient temple. The temple was shrouded in green smoke, and occasionally screams could be heard from inside, only to fall silent abruptly. This is the headquarters of the Hand, and their leader, the Fell Beast, is hiding here. In the main hall of the temple, the evil beast sat at the very top. His face was bizarre, his features distorted, as if nature itself had failed in its creative endeavors. He was tall and obese, yet his limbs were thin, exuding a cunning and ferocious aura, his eyes gleaming with greed and evil. His skin was rough and mottled, as if sculpted by time and harsh environments. The beast's laughter was shrill and piercing, an eerie echo from the depths of hell, sending chills down one's spine. Beneath him lay a man who had been tortured beyond recognition. "Please, let me die." The man dared not beg for life, only for death. Because the evil beast possesses the power to resurrect life, it greatly enjoys the game of torturing people to death and then resurrecting them. Just then, the evil beast sensed something. The soul of his subordinate, Yoshioka Shin, had returned to this place. The evil beast was furious that someone dared to kill his trusted subordinate. He stretched out his hand, and a black energy tentacle spread out from his body. Black energy enveloped the person who was being tormented. "No!" With that scream, the black energy coalesced into a human form. Then the black energy dissipated and returned to the evil beast's body. Yoshioka Shin stood up from the ground, looked at his body, and realized he had come back to life. "Great Beast Lord, please forgive my incompetence." Yoshioka Shin quickly knelt before the beast, begging for its forgiveness. He knew the beast loved to torture people, he wasn't afraid of death, but he was terrified of the beast lord's torment of being unable to live or die. The evil beast remained silent, but Yoshioka Shin sensed its wrath. He knew the beast was waiting for his explanation, and if it failed to satisfy it, his fate would be dire. Lord Evil Beast, the new president of the Osborn Corporation in New York, has invented a weapon called Kamen Rider. Shin Yoshioka quickly explained to Lord Evil Beast the power of this Kamen Rider and how he easily defeated him even when Evil Beast used witchcraft. Furthermore, Harry Osborn is plotting against Hell's Kitchen, otherwise, why would he be slaughtering Kingpin's criminal gang? Why would he be attacking him? Shin Yoshioka believes that Harry Osborn wants to rule the entire Hell's Kitchen. Hell's Kitchen contains dragon bones from the legendary Kunlun Mountains, which the evil beast has long coveted. If Harry Osborn takes over Hell's Kitchen, their hands' plans will all fail, and they will never get the dragon bone. Upon hearing Yoshioka Shin's words, the evil beast was enraged and smashed the armrests of the chair in its anger. The evil beast opened its mouth, and black energy-forming filaments spread out from its mouth. They formed a humanoid black energy monster and came before Yoshioka Shin. When Yoshioka Shin saw this, he broke out in a cold sweat. "Go back, Telgao, get ready, the evil beast is about to descend," the monster made of black energy said intermittently. This monster, composed of black energy, is the tongue of an evil beast, it can speak in the beast's stead. "Yes, Lord Evil Beast," Yoshioka Shin said respectfully. He knew that when the evil beast lord descended upon New York, disaster was imminent for the entire city. On the other side, outside New York City, inside the Gutasf Gene Laboratory, Harry Osborn's long-sought-after kingpin, Wilson Fisk, is lying on the laboratory table. The monitoring data instruments had cables plugged all over Wilson's body. "Mr. Wilson, your lizardman injection experiment was a great success. You have perfectly adapted the lizardman transgenic animal injection solution," Dr. Ratman said respectfully to Kingpin. Wilson Fisk, the underworld boss known for his ruthlessness and authority, showed a rare tenderness at this moment. He leaned down slightly, his eyes gleaming with a gentle light, and said softly to the doctor, "Doctor, I've seen all your efforts, and I'm truly grateful to you." Dr. Mouseman was indeed a genius. After conducting numerous genetically modified human enhancement experiments, he finally developed a flawless experimental method. Wilson Fisk is a perfect match for the lizard man injection, even more so than Dr. Connors. "Fisk." At that moment, Gustav walked in. He handed a tablet to Wilson Fisk. "Our common enemy, Harry Osborn, has become even more powerful." Wilson Fisk frowned as he looked at the video on his tablet. He saw Harry lead a group to massacre his 5 secret hideouts, and the hand was also defeated by Harry transforming into a new Kamen Rider. Wilson Fisk was furious. In his anger, he lost control of his strength and with a sudden jerk of his leg, he crushed the steel bed beneath him. Wilson Fisk's power has increased significantly, becoming much stronger than before. "Harry Osborn, I'll make you pay!" Kingpin Wilson Fisk roared in the genetic laboratory. Upon hearing Wilson Fisk's voice, Scorpion, Pity, Vulture, and Gustav's newly recruited villain, Thriller, entered. With the addition of the 4 villains, Wilson Fisk, the new Lizardman and Ratman Doctor, the infamous Sinister Six villainous group is now assembled. This time, however, their target was not Spider-Man, but Harry Osborn. At this moment, Harry Osborn was unaware of the impending danger. The villainous group, the Sinister Six, and the villainous organization, the Hand, have their eyes on him. But even if Harry knew, he wouldn't care. Because his Assault Grip and Shining Locust prototype Ascension Key are already complete. "Mr. Osborn, the first batch of Humagears has been successfully manufactured at the Humagear Automated Manufacturing Plant." Is walked in and said respectfully. "How many were produced in total?" Harry asked. "A total of 5,000 Humagears were produced, including 2,000 combat-type Humagears and 3,000 utility-type Humagears." Harry nodded in agreement. Of the 2,000 Humagears produced, half were used for security at the Osborn Group, and the other half were delivered to the military. Of the remaining 3,000 functional Humagears, 1,000 are custom-made for sale, and people have already started buying them. The other 2,000 functional Humagear units are being used to manufacture the second and third Humagear automated manufacturing plants. Only in this way can more Humagears be produced. Chapter 33: The Fall of New York. Oscar Group Technology Building. "Peter, I think we should break up." Gwen Stacy was on the phone with Peter Parker. Although the two had reconciled, Peter Parker was still worried that his Spider-Man identity might pose a danger to Gwen. Peter could never forget Gwen's father, and George Stacy held his hand and made him promise to leave Gwen. In addition, Peter accidentally discovers that Aunt May has taken on an extra job, and Aunt May has been working tirelessly to take care of Peter's life. All these factors combined made Peter very hesitant about this relationship. "Gwen, What?" Before Peter could finish speaking, Gwen screamed from the phone. "Gwen! Gwen! What happened?" Peter called out anxiously, but there was no sound from Gwen on the other end of the phone, only squeaking sounds, like the sound of a mouse. Seeing this, Peter knew that something must have happened to Gwen. He quickly changed into his Spider-Man suit and jumped out of the window. It sped through New York City toward the Osborn Group building. What he didn't notice was that a green fog was spreading throughout New York City, which looked quite eerie. Inside the Osborn Group building, Gwen and her colleagues were fleeing upstairs. She was on the phone with Peter when she suddenly discovered a mouse had run into the office. Although Gwen is very brave, she is still a young girl. When she saw a mouse, she screamed and accidentally dropped her phone. Just as Gwen reached for her phone, she noticed rats coming out of the office ventilation duct. Gwen acted decisively, not even having time to pick up her phone, and quickly led her colleagues outside. But the stairs leading down were already crawling with rats, so Gwen had no choice but to run back up. In the lobby on the first floor, Kingpin Wilson led 4 major villains into the Osborn building. The 4 main villains are Pity, who wears a black bodysuit that shows off her impressive figure, Scorpion Man, who wears a green mechanical exoskeleton armor, Rat Man, who wears a white lab coat, and Horror, who wears a special suit with sonic emitters on his hands. "Doctor, have you found Harry Osborn?" Wilson asked in a deep voice. "Not yet, Mr. Fisk. It seems Harry Osborn may not be here today." Dr. Ratman spoke very cautiously. He knew just how terrifying this burly man, over 2 meters tall, was now. Occasionally, a green light would flash through Wilson Fisk's skin, revealing the immense power within. "Humph, Doctor, Pity, Scorpion Man, Horror, go ahead and do whatever you want, destroy everything here." Wilson coldly observed everything in Osborn and issued orders to the 4 main villains to carry out their destruction. He didn't believe Harry wouldn't come if he knew the news. Alarm! Alarm! The security guard, Magia, from the Osborn building rushed over. The leader of the Humajir security team took out the extinction driver and used the power of the extinction program Ascension key to transform into a Magia. As he transformed, the 12 Humajirs behind him also transformed. A total of 13 Magia, plus the regular mercenary-type security Magia constantly providing support, constituted the security force Harry left behind at the Osborn Group building. "Mr. Fisk, let's retreat first." Seeing so many Magia, the Ratman doctor, being naturally timid, showed his fear first. "No need. I can handle this alone. You all continue with my orders, destroy this building and lure out Harry Osborn." Kingpin Wilson Fisk wasn't afraid, in fact, he was somewhat excited. He hasn't tested his abilities since receiving the injection from the genetically modified laboratory animal, the lizardman. Surrounded by the magical puppets, he began his transformation. His body gradually swelled, his muscles bulged like green mountains, and his skin became rough and hard, as if covered with heavy armor, shimmering with a metallic luster. His head was enormous and ferocious, his eyes gleaming with a malevolent light, as if capable of devouring everything. His sharp claws and fangs were chilling, and his eyes flashed with a wild light, as if burning with endless rage. Wilson's version of the lizard man transformation is complete. 13 magical puppets unleashed various different abilities to attack Wilson. However, Wilson's defenses were extremely strong, and the attacks from the magical puppets could not break through them. It should be noted that the strength of these magical puppets ranges from 10 to 25 tons. Each one is comparable to Captain America from the Super Soldier Experimentation Program. 13 Magia, each possessing the power of Captain America, were unable to harm Wilson. Wilson Fisk roared and charged at the Magia dolls like a mini Godzilla. Meanwhile, Gwen finally escaped to the top floor of the Osborn Group building, pursued by the rats. Many Osborn Group employees came up here. Since there are rats downstairs, the only escape route available to everyone is the top floor. On the top floor, after most of the employees had arrived, everyone blocked the door to prevent the rats from getting in. "Calm down, Gwen, Peter will come to save you," Gwen reassured herself. Meanwhile, the others were frantically calling the police and waiting for their rescue. But no matter how many times they called, they couldn't get through to the police station. They failed to notice the green fog that permeated the entire city of New York. This mist is the power of the Hand's evil beasts. It can render those who inhale it unconscious, essentially acting as a powerful sedative. Now, most people in New York City are captivated by the green fog. Led by the evil beast, the Hand Society, a total of 1,000 ninjas, marched in a grand procession toward the Osborn Group building. Their target is also Harry Osborn. At the same time, at SHIELD headquarters, Nick Fury also received news that New York City had fallen and the Osborn Group building was surrounded. Director Fury, Natasha, and Agent Grant have received orders from Harry Osborn to provide support. Level 9 Agent, Hill, Deputy Director of SHIELD, said to Nick Fury. "Do we need support? No, let Harry Osborn handle this. After all, he's the one who brought this on. However, to prevent any harm to New York City residents, deploy a SHIELD team, led by Clint Barton, to rescue them," Nick Fury ordered. "Yes, but should we notify Captain Rogers?" Agent Hill asked Nick Fury. Nick Fury thought for a moment and replied, "I'll go and inform the captain myself." And so SHIELD joined the battle in New York. Meanwhile, on the New York City coast, inside Stark Villa, a beam of red light soared into the sky and flew towards the Osborn Group building. His flight speed was so fast that it exceeded the speed of sound. Chapter 34 Iron Man appears. At the top of the Oscar Group building, Employees anxiously awaited rescue. Even though they couldn't get through on the phone, they still believed someone would come to save them. Because Gwen was worried that the employees weren't calm enough, she stepped in to comfort them. Don't worry, our boss is a Kamen Rider, he will definitely come to save us, and Spider-Man will definitely come too. He, Kamen Rider? Spider-Man. A shrill voice came from the sky. Gwen looked up and saw Vulture wearing a green exoskeleton mechanical armor with 2 large mechanical wings on his back, hovering in the sky. Kingpin assigned the only flying Vulture to guard the skies above the Osborn group. Kamen Rider is nothing but a coward. Spider-Man? What kind of little bug is that? The Vulture looked at Gwen and sneered. Just then, a red and blue figure flew over and kicked the Vulture in the back. The Vulture, caught off guard, was kicked right after it finished speaking. Here comes the little bug. Spider-Man Peter Parker makes his entrance. You're finally here. Gwen exclaimed excitedly as she looked at Spider-Man, Peter Parker. Peter looked at Gwen with excitement. He had been very worried that Gwen was in danger, but now that he saw that she was all right, he was relieved. Peter wanted to ask Gwen if she was hurt, but suddenly his spider sense was triggered, and he instinctively jumped to the side. A laser beam struck the ground, blasting a hole in it. You little mosquito, all you do is bite people from behind. Vulture mocked Spider-Man Peter's sneak attack. Vulture's real name is Adrian Toombs. He was originally an electrical engineer who had always dreamed of flying. He conducted countless experiments in an attempt to create wings like those of a bird, but due to a lack of research funding, he was cheated by a businessman and imprisoned. Then Gustav bribed the people in the prison to release him, because Gustav valued his abilities. After his release from prison, he received a transgenic vulture experimental animal injection, completed the experiment, and then donned the vulture exoskeleton mechanical armor made by Gustav. Adrian Toombs officially became the main villain, the Vulture. The Vulture frantically fired lasers at Peter, but Peter, with his spider sense, easily dodged his attacks. Hey, that's cheating. How can a vulture shoot lasers? Zeus won't take you in like that. Peter, who was always quick-witted, even had time to crack jokes. You damned bug. The vulture, enraged, stopped firing its laser and flew rapidly toward Peter. Peter seized the opportunity to use spider silk to entangle an air conditioner unit and smash it down on the flying vulture. The vulture, unable to dodge in time, was smashed away by Peter. Haha, even a little spider can launch a big attack. Watch out! Gwen shouted to Peter. Peter, who was just talking, suddenly sensed something appear behind him in an instant through his spider sense, but he didn't have time to dodge. A beautiful girl in a black bodysuit appeared behind Peter. It was Pity. Pity used dark energy to teleport behind Peter, quickly kicking him 3 times and punching him twice, knocking Spider-Man down. Sneak attack, red card warning. Spider-Man Peter Parker, with his thick skin and tough flesh, was unharmed and stood up to say this. But Pity was already prepared and used dark energy to trap Peter. Peter tried to break free of the dark energy, but it took time. Just then, the vulture that had flown away returned, and he became even angrier. It was just as Peter was trapped by the dark energy that the vulture had taken advantage of the situation. He grabbed Peter with the hooks on his feet and flew into the sky, intending to fly high enough to kill Peter by crashing him down. The vulture flew higher and higher, and Peter struggled desperately until he finally broke free from the shackles of the dark energy. But by then the vulture had already thrown Peter down. Peter fell from the sky, wondering how he could avoid being killed. With such a large impact, the web shooter might not be able to catch him. But he chose to give it a try. He couldn't just sit and wait for his fate. Just then, a red light flashed, and Tony Stark, dressed in red and gold mecha armor, flew over and hugged Spider-Man in a princess carry. Then he flew to the top of the Osborn Corporation building, landed in a standard superhero style, kneeling on one knee, still holding Spider-Man in his arms. Hey, pajama baby, wake up. Tony Stark's voice came from inside the mech. Peter stood there speechlessly, staring at Iron Man like a fanboy. Wow, how was your mecha made? What kind of energy does it use to support the whole body? And what power source makes it fly? Every boy dreams of owning a mecha, and even 18-year-old Spider-Man was captivated when he saw Iron Man's mecha. He even touched Iron Man's chest with his hand. Iron Man used his strength to throw him away. I knew someone who wears tight pajamas every day must be a freak. Let me tell you, I'm straight, only women can touch me, Tony Stark said disdainfully. Jarvis, go back and remind me to throw this Mark III away. The next model needs to be sterilizable. Gwen looked at the two of them with a blank expression. No wonder Peter had seemed off lately. No. I didn't. Peter understood what Tony meant and realized that Tony had misunderstood him, so he quickly explained. But before he could finish explaining, the vultures had already flown down from the sky. What's going on? Is this a zoo? Tony looked at the vulture's outfit, then at Spider-Man. Who are you? You don't look like a Kamen Rider, Vulture asked. Don't mention Kamen Rider to me. I'm way better than him, I'm Iron Man. As he spoke, Tony extended his right hand and fired a pulse cannon shot. But before they could even hit the Vulture, they were blocked by Pity's dark energy. It was only then that Tony noticed Pity. A superpowered girl? What day is it today? Tony Stark was very confused, feeling that the world had suddenly changed. There was a little Spider-Man swinging around the building in a tight nightgown, a flying vulture wearing an exoskeleton, and now a girl who could use superpowers. My god, what is this garbage? Since the attack, Tony Stark has been working tirelessly at home researching and building mechs. After the cumbersome Mark I and the flawed Mark II, he finally created the relatively perfect Mark III steel mech. But unexpectedly, something happened in New York City right after he built it, and then he discovered the Osborn Group building had been damaged by satellite. Tony Stark, who was thinking of showing off, immediately flew over wearing his Mark III armor. Unexpectedly, I encountered 3 oddballs as soon as I arrived. Chapter 35 The Vulture and Number 039, S Defeat. Iron Man Tony Stark is incredibly fast and agile, much more so than the Vulture. Using his agile body, he constantly dodged the Vulture's attacks, then looked for opportunities to attack the Vulture with pulse cannons, missiles, and mini-machine guns. Unfortunately, there was a superpowered girl named Pity who used her ability to control dark energy to create a shield to block Iron Man's attacks. Carrie the Witch, why aren't you going to destroy high school? What are you doing here? Iron Man Tony sneered rudely. Meanwhile, Spider-Man was still standing there in a daze, staring intently at the Iron Man armor, analyzing how it was made and wondering if he could have one too. My god, this is way cooler than a bodysuit, Peter thought to himself. Hello? Pajama baby, look here. Seeing that he couldn't handle the combination of the Vulture and the superpowered girl anytime soon, Tony Stark yelled at the dazed Spider-Man Peter. Stop daydreaming. I'll let you watch to your heart's content after the fight. Come over here and figure out how to deal with Carrie, the Destroyer Witch of high school. Carrie is the protagonist of a classic American movie. She has superpowers but suffers from domestic violence and school bullying every day. Finally, one day, she can't take it anymore and uses her superpowers to slaughter all the people who bullied her in the high school. Tony saw that she was also a girl with superpowers, so he gave her this nickname. Peter Parker hadn't seen the old movie, but that didn't stop him from understanding what Tony meant. Peter, you can't let your mind wander again. Spider-Man Peter is back online. He soared into the air, using the spider silk for leverage, and charged towards Pity. Pity uses her superpowers to stop Spider-Man Peter from getting close, but Peter is still very powerful when he gets serious. With his spider sense, Pity's superpowers couldn't touch Peter at all. With Spider-Man Peter Parker holding Pity back, Iron Man is finally able to properly fight the Vulture. The Vulture's attack was very limited, it could only fire lasers, but it couldn't hit Tony at all. Jarvis, analyze the enemy's weaknesses and attack, Tony commanded Jarvis while dodging. Yes, sir. Jarvis received the order and immediately began his analysis. Analysis complete, commence attack. Jarvis, piloting the Iron Man suit, fired a pulse cannon first. As Vulture dodged, Jarvis then deflected a missile from his shoulder, which struck the Vulture's back circuitry. Although Vultures are recipients of genetically modified experimental animals, they are not perfect, they are merely failed products, as they are inherently unable to fly. Jarvis's attack disrupted the circuitry of the Vulture's back armor, temporarily preventing the Vulture from maneuvering itself effectively. They were forced to descend to the top floor of the Osborn building. Iron Man Tony Stark wouldn't let it land, he accelerated and rushed over, severing one of the Vulture's wings with a laser. The Vulture, having lost a wing, finally couldn't stop its descent. Iron Man Tony Stark isn't a saint either, he wouldn't try to save a villain like that. He just let the villain fall, and from that height, there was basically no way to save him. Meanwhile, the good-natured Peter was busy fighting a girl with teleportation abilities and had even less time to deal with the Vulture. After dealing with Vulture, Tony seized the opportunity and fired a missile at Pity. Although Pity managed to block it with a dark energy shield in time, the impact of the missile sent Pity flying. Pity rolled several times on the ground, and finally got hurt, something that had never happened before. What other tricks do you have up your sleeve, Carrie? Iron Man Tony wasn't going to show any mercy at a time like this, weapons popped out from his shoulders and arms, aimed at Pity. Spider-Man Peter also landed nearby, keeping watch. Surrender, Peter said, his heart soft and unwilling to let the girl get hurt. Seeing this, the superpowered girl Pity knew she couldn't stop the two, so she had no choice but to use dark energy to teleport away. Just then, a huge roar came from below, and Wilson Fisk, a lizard man over 3 meters tall, rushed out of the Osborn Corporation building. After he finished dealing with all the magical puppets, he heard the sound of a vulture falling from the building and immediately ran out. And it let out a deafening roar. What is that, Godzilla. Iron Man Tony Stark used his head-mounted device to capture the image of the lizard man Wilson Fisk below. What day is it today? Is it a monster extravaganza? My god, Dr. Connors. Spider-Man Peter looked at the lizard man in disbelief. But wasn't Dr. Connors arrested and imprisoned? Thinking of Dr. Connors, Peter swung his spiderweb and ran toward the lizardman. When Iron Man Tony saw Peter go over, he also flew down. Dr. Connors. Spider-Man Peter flew to the lizard man's side. Dr. Connors? No. I am Kingpin. Wilson Fisk, the lizard man, roared as he charged toward Peter. Peter, caught off guard, was captured by Wilson Fisker. Although he possessed spider sense, he was caught off guard by Wilson's sneak attack because he was worried about Dr. Connors. Enraged, Wilson Fisk slammed Peter to the ground. Wilson Fisk, who already possessed a strength of 25 tons, became 3 times stronger after being enhanced by the lizardman's genetically modified experimental animal injection. His current strength is 75 tons. To be honest, if Spider-Man Peter Parker gets serious, his power level is higher than that of Lizard Wilson. But Peter Parker is a very kind person. Although he has extraordinary powers, he has always suppressed them. Spider-Man Peter was slammed hard, and even he couldn't withstand the force of 75 tons. Ah, my back, my back. Spider-Man Peter groaned in pain underground. Just as Lizard Wilson was about to deliver the finishing blow, Iron Man Tony descended from the sky. His weapons, pulse cannons, chaff, mini-machine guns, and missiles launched a furious attack on the lizardman Wilson. Hey, big crocodile, weren't you in the sewers today? Iron Man Tony mocked Lizard Wilson, trying to distract him from Spider-Man Peter. Kamen Rider? Harry Osborn, you've finally arrived. Lizard Man Wilson saw Iron Man Tony's red and gold armor and thought it was Harry Osborn's newly developed Kamen Rider. It seems that only Kamen Riders from the Osborn group possess life-size steel armor in this world. Even the Lizard Man, Wilson, hadn't imagined that anyone could create an armor like Iron Man's. What Kamen Rider? What Harry Osborn? I am Iron Man Tony Stark. Don't lump me in with that masked kid. Tony Stark flicked off his visor, revealing his unruly yet weathered face, worn from days of working on mechanical armor. Tony Stark, why aren't you at your Stark Industries? What are you doing here? Wilson Fisk didn't understand why these super rich people like to cosplay as superheroes and fly around like that. With that kind of power, wouldn't it be great to rule the world? Because the crocodile escaped from the sewer, I'm here to put it back in the sewer. With that, Iron Man Tony closed his armor and, taking advantage of Lizard Man Wilson's inattention, launched a missile at Lizard Man Wilson's face. The missile exploded, splattering green blood everywhere. Lizardman Wilson was finally injured, his facial defenses were not as strong as his body's. The smoke from the explosion obscured the face of the Lizard Man, Wilson. What I hate most are guys like you who think they're superheroes and saviors. Chapter 36. The Savior always makes his last appearance. What I hate most are guys like you who play superhero, savior games. An enraged Wilson Fisk burst out of the smoke. The wounds on his face were healing rapidly, rendering Tony Stark's attack ineffective. Activate the automatic emergency rescue system, Jarvis's voice came from the Iron Man Tony Stark suit. Tony Stark, though a genius, was still just a mortal, and in that instant, he was almost attacked by the Lizard Man, Wilson. Fortunately, the artificial intelligence Jarvis controlled the Iron Man suit to fly into the sky. Fuck, how do we fight this? His own attacks were ineffective, and he probably couldn't withstand the opponent's attacks. When Lizard Wilson saw Iron Man Tony take to the sky, he, who had no ability to fly, stomped hard on the ground. The ground was shattered by the attack of the Lizardman Wilson. Wilson grabbed a crack in the ground, lifted a large rock, and prepared to throw it at Iron Man Tony. Just then, a Quinjet flew over. Natasha piloted the Quinjet, launching a frenzied attack on the Lizardman Wilson. Taking advantage of the opportunity, Iron Man Tony descended from the sky, picked up the injured Spider-Man Peter, and flew away into the distance. Are you all right, Pajama Baby? Tony Stark, Iron Man, asked with concern. It's all right, Mr. Stark. Put me down. Spider-Man Peter's regenerative abilities are quite good as well. Although I injured my back in the fall, it has recovered somewhat recently. Upon hearing this, Iron Man Tony put Spider-Man Peter down. Looks like the final boss is going to be tough. Why hasn't Harry Osborn, that masked boy, shown up yet? Tony grumbled. This battle was started by Harry Osborn, but he has yet to be seen. On the battlefield, the Lizardman Wilson was attacked by Quinjet aircraft. Although the aircraft did not break through Wilson's defenses, it greatly annoyed him. The Lizard Man, Wilson, threw the stone in his hand at the Quinjet. Unable to dodge in time, the Quinjet was hit by a large rock, sparks flew, and it began to go out of control. Natasha and Grant weren't in a hurry at all. They opened the hatch, transformed into Kamen Riders, and jumped out. Iron Man Tony and Spider-Man Peter also flew over. "Where's Harry Osborn?" Tony Stark asked. "Mr. Osborn is on his way," Natasha said. She contacted Harry Osborn immediately after the Osborn Group incident. "Harry Osborn is on his way." Iron Man Tony, Spider-Man Peter, Kamen Rider Vulcan, and Kamen Rider Valkyrie have temporarily formed a small team. Their opponent was the main villain, the Lizard Man Wilson. "Hey, Big Crocodile, we outnumber you, would it be convenient for us to surrender?" Tony Stark stood on the shoulders and between the legs of the main character, with various weapons springing up between his legs and aimed at the Lizard Man Wilson. As soon as Iron Man Tony finished speaking, 1,000 ninjas surged out from the street outside, led by the Hans Beast. Moreover, a large group of rats rushed out of the Osborn Group building. Scorpion Man, Rat Man, and a terrifying figure emerged from behind the rat. Lizardman Wilson laughed loudly, his shrill voice echoing throughout the street. "Who has the more men now? Should we surrender, Tony Stark?" Lizard Wilson, along with 3 major villains, a ferocious beast, and 1,000 hand ninjas, surrounded Iron Man, Tony Stark, and 3 other superheroes. "Mr. Iron Man, could you please speak less in the future?" Natasha looked at Tony, Iron Man, speechlessly. He was speechless at this point, never expecting to be proven wrong so quickly, nor did he expect to have so many enemies. Even one lizardman is difficult to deal with, let alone so many. Boom! At that moment, an explosion was heard from the outer edge of the street. 1,000 hand ninjas were attacked from the outside. It was Humagears. A large number of Humagears rushed out from outside, using a large number of weapons such as guns and grenades to fight their way through 1,000 hand ninjas. As the road opened up, a handsome 18-year-old boy wearing sunglasses rode by on a green motorcycle. "I'm not late, am I?" The person who arrived was Harry Osborn. After receiving the news, Harry first led Metsubujinrai.net to the factory to retrieve 3,000 newly made Humagears before rushing here. Fortunately, Harry brought a large army of Humagears with him, otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to deal with so many villains on his own. "Hey, masked kid, why didn't you wait until the next day to come?" Tony Stark, who doesn't get along with Harry, said sarcastically. The savior always makes his appearance last. Harry didn't care about Tony's sarcasm, he knew Tony Stark was a man with a sharp tongue but a kind heart. Tony, now Iron Man, is often unreliable, but he is still a superhero. "Harry, what should we do now?" Natasha asked Harry. After all, Harry was the captain of the Thunderbolts, and they had to follow his orders in combat. "You guys deal with the others, I'll handle this ugly guy." "I'm going to solo the boss," Harry ordered. Then he pulled out a camera and threw it to Spider-Man, Peter. "Harry." Peter was very puzzled as to why Harry gave him the camera. "I heard you did a good job with the Daily Bugle. Make sure you shoot my battle scenes look cool later," Harry said before walking towards Wilson the Lizard. "You've finally shown up, Harry Osborn," Wilson the Lizard said, looking at Harry. "Wilson Fisk." Harry recognized the voice and realized who the enemy in front of him was. "Long time no see, you've gotten so ugly. Still as talkative as ever. I'll pull your tongue out later and see if you can still talk then." Enraged by this, the lizardman Wilson charged toward Harry, shaking the earth as he ran. Harry wasn't scared at all, he summoned his belt and began his transformation. Prog Rise. Warning, warning. This is not a test. Hybrid Rise. Shining Assault Hopper. No chance of surviving this shot. As the transformation sound effect played, Harry instantly transformed. At this moment, Wilson the Lizardman's attack was approaching. Bright Attack System activated. Chapter 37 Killing the Scorpion Man. Wilson the Lizard was incredibly fast, reaching Harry in just a few seconds. He then swung his right hand at Harry. A force of 75 tons would be fatal to a person if it hit them. Fortunately, Harry had already transformed in an instant. Bright Attack System activated. A blue, shimmering energy wave, a shining crystal exploded from the chest of Harry's assault shining locust form. A total of 6 sparkling crystals formed an umbrella-shaped barrier in front of Harry. Boom! The Lizardman Wilson's attack hit the barrier. It made a loud crashing sound. How is this possible? Wilson's attack had failed. We live in a technological age now, and old-fashioned lizard monsters like you are outdated. As Harry spoke, he manipulated the shining crystal to launch an energy attack, blasting Wilson away with a single shot. The Lizardman Wilson was knocked back 3 meters by Harry's attack, but his defense was so high that the attack didn't even break through. Harry's Assault Shining Locusts combo has a punching force of 27.1 tons and a kicking force of 67.7 tons. Based on the data alone, he is weaker than the Lizardman Wilson. Fortunately, Harry has a combat support device called the Shining Assault Locust on his chest. By activating the built-in Thought Response Wave component, an energy wave blast that shines with blue light can be unleashed. This combat support device is also known as the Shining Attack System. You brat, I'm going to tear you apart. Enraged by Harry's mockery, Wilson the Lizardman leaped up and charged at Harry again. Harry didn't confront Wilson directly, instead, he instantly activated the Shining Assault Locust thrusters on his back. Harry has 2 jet nozzles on his back, one on each side. By releasing extremely dense luminous particles, he gains propulsion from the radiation pressure, allowing him to move at supersonic speeds. Harry quickly moved to Wilson's left, dodging Wilson's attack. Wilson's attack struck the open ground, causing the ground to crack and sending rocks flying everywhere. Harry used 6 shimmering crystals suspended in midair to block the flying stones, then manipulated the crystals to attack the lizard man Wilson. The 6 shimmering crystals, with their mobility, launched an automatic attack thanks to the computational capabilities of the Zea in Harry's head. However, the lizardman Wilson was incredibly resilient, the energy attacks from the shining crystal couldn't even break through his defenses. Fortunately, the lizardman Wilson was also unable to damage the 6 shimmering crystals, and the 2 were locked in a stalemate. Just then, a green shadow flew by and crashed down next to Harry. Then another yellow figure jumped over and engaged the green figure in combat. Harry looked over there and saw that the Scorpion Man and Natasha were locked in combat. At this point, Natasha had transformed into Kamen Rider Valkyrie. Although her data wasn't high, it was even lower than Scorpion's. But thanks to her outstanding combat abilities, Natasha was able to completely overpower the Scorpion Man. However, since the Scorpion Man is wearing an exoskeleton mechanical armor, Natasha won't be able to break through his defenses for the time being. Scorpion Man's real name is Mike Goggin. He was a private detective, but he was chosen by the gentleman Gustav to conduct genetic experiments on genetically modified animals in a gene lab. Then, he wore an exoskeleton and became the villain, Scorpion Man. Seeing that Natasha couldn't defeat the Scorpion Man anytime soon, Harry reached out and summoned a green and blue mechanical axe. This mechanical axe is the exclusive weapon of Assault Shining Locust form, the Authorized Destroyer. It has 2 forms, a melee axe mode and a ranged gun mode. Harry snapped the axe shut, instantly transforming it into a gun. He then pulled the trigger, and the gun fired an energy projectile at the Scorpion Man. The Scorpion Man, who was already no match for Natasha, didn't even notice the shot. It blasted right through his head, killing the villainous Scorpion Man instantly. Natasha was startled by the attack. She looked at Harry with a hint of resentment, as if to say, "Aren't you afraid of hitting me?" Harry paid no attention to Natasha's gaze, because the Assault Shining Locust armor had a computational processing device that could predict enemy actions by learning from them and then calculate about 25,000 attack and evasion patterns by comparing them with its own performance. Then, the optimal solution can be found in about 0.01 seconds. Harry's shot was calculated, so he naturally wouldn't miss and hit Natasha. This powerful and precise shot shocked everyone on the battlefield, from superheroes to supervillains. One shot is all it takes to take down an enemy officer. That's some serious skill. As expected, this guy only keeps the best Kamen Rider armor for himself. That's what Natasha thought. If this shot hits me, I'll be a dead spider, Peter thought. That damn masked kid has gotten even stronger. That's what Tony Stark was thinking. Harry, unaware of everyone's thoughts, ordered his subordinates, Destroyer.J.N.L, Grant, and Natasha, to kill all of the enemy's executives, leaving none alive. Then they ganged up on Wilson, the lizard man, and beat him up. However, no sooner had he given the order than a flash of dark energy appeared, rescuing the rat man. It was the superpowered girl Pity who did it. Then this Pity teleported over again to try and save the lizard man Wilson. But Harry is no longer the same person he used to be. Now, with his computing device, he was able to analyze Pity's next move in 0.01 seconds the moment Pity rescued the ratman. Without the slightest hesitation, Harry picked up the Authorized Destroyer and fired a shot at the spot where Pity was bound to appear. Pity teleported over using dark energy, but didn't have time to use it to save the lizardman Wilson. Harry shot him through the chest. In Harry's eyes, an enemy is an enemy. He has no intention of showing mercy to women. He's not the kind neighbor Spider-Man. Pity was spitting blood, but no blood was flowing from the wound on her chest. Dark energy filled Pity's wound, which kept her alive for the time being. Then, Pity used all her strength to teleport away using dark energy. Humph, so they ran away after all? But next time it won't be so easy. Harry now understands that there is a force behind the scenes constantly creating villains. From the Rhinoceros Man, Vulture Man, Scorpion Man, Rat Man, and now the terrifying Lizard Man Wilson Fisk, we now have another one. Harry now realized that something had gone wrong with the gene lab. He had already abandoned the gene lab after obtaining the genetically modified experimental animal injection. Even the Osborn Group withdrew its investment, and for a moment Harry forgot about this place. But all the villains that have appeared now are exoskeletons and mechanical armor from the Osborn Corporation, all masterpieces of the genetic laboratory. It seems that the mysterious figure is hiding inside the gene lab. Let's deal with the lizard man Wilson first, and then go to the gene lab. Chapter 38 Gang Fight with Wilson. The impotent and furious lizardman Wilson is being toyed with by 6 shimmering crystals. The force of 75 tons was useless and could not be exerted. Even if someone is stronger than Harry, they still can't defeat him. That's because of technological superiority. Harry's assault shining locust armor is far superior to the lizardman injection. Looks like you're the only one left, Harry said as he approached Wilson the lizard. The terrifying creature was defeated in just a few minutes under the combined attack of Kamen Rider Metsubujinrai.net. Meanwhile, the Hands monsters are fighting Natasha and Grant, and the battle is still undecided. Iron Man and Spider-Man have now been reduced to a duo for clearing out mobs on the battlefield. However, after the previous 2 battles, Iron Man Tony Stark's energy was depleted, leaving him with only 20% of his energy remaining. Therefore, they will not be able to participate in the final boss battle. Harry Osborn. Wilson Fisk ignored the sparkling crystal. He charged at Harry like a madman. Knowing that his data was no match for Harry's, he wasn't foolish enough to engage in a head-on confrontation. Instead, he analyzed the enemy's combat data. Having found the optimal solution, he dodged the lizardman Wilson's attack while switching to the authorized destroyer axe form. He then cleaved the lizardman Wilson in the back of the head with an axe blow. In an instant, green blood splattered everywhere. Ah! Wilson the lizardman was finally injured. He cried out in pain and turned to grab Harry, ignoring the wound on his head. But Harry had anticipated his attack, and his back thrusters emitted an extremely dense stream of luminous particles, propelling him into hyperspeed. He soared into the sky. The sparkling crystals surrounding Harry created an aura that granted him the ability to fly. Harry calculated through Zea that the lizardman Wilson's weakness was in his head. After Wilson transforms into a lizardman, his skin becomes thick and hard, as if he were wearing a layer of metal armor. It would take an attack of at least 100 tons to break through the defenses. Only the head lacks a hard skin covering it. Although Harry's attack wounded his head, Wilson the lizardman recovered thanks to his powerful regenerative abilities. This is really troublesome. Harry was also a bit troubled by the lizardman's regenerative abilities. It's surprising that the villain Wilson Fisk is such a perfect match for the lizardman's genetically modified animal injection. He's far superior to Dr. Connors, they're worlds apart. Masked Kid, what's wrong? Out of options. Iron Man Tony Stark flew over and mocked Harry. Harry's Humajir army has almost wiped out 1,000 hand ninjas. Even the evil beasts were defeated by the 2 Kamen Riders, Natasha and Grant. The beast was originally a minor villain, Daredevil's enemy. He couldn't even beat Daredevil, let alone the enhanced versions of Natasha and Grant. These 2 are super agents, one a level 10 agent of SHIELD, and the other a level 7 agent. Killing a demonic beast is not a problem. What? If I can take care of him, will you give me another $100 million? Although Harry is not short of money now, it's still good to use it to provoke Tony Stark. Tony Stark was speechless. He had lost to Harry in the same way last time. Although he didn't lack $100 million, he hated the feeling of losing. He was a genius after all, and he could see that Harry Osborn seemed to have a solution. Of course, he wouldn't make a bet lightly, otherwise what would be the difference between that and giving it away? It's pointless. Dealing with smart people is pointless. I can't keep tricking Tony all the time. Tricking him occasionally is just taking advantage of an information gap. This time, Tony Stark won't fall for it. Harry certainly has a way to deal with Wilson the reptile. That's a gang fight. Everyone present was his man, so why did he insist on fighting the big boss one-on-one? He doesn't have any particular interest in fighting bosses. Harry instantly connected all the Humajirs using Ark. After a fierce battle with the hand ninjas, only about 2,500 Humajirs remained. But that's enough. Too many ants can kill an elephant, let alone more than 2,500 Humajirs. Follow Ark's will. Instantly, all the Humajirs went berserk, and Harry turned them all into trilobite puppets. The weakest Magia, and once it becomes a trilobite Magia, the Humajir will be unable to revert to its original form. However, sacrificing all the Humajirs would be worth it if it were just to eliminate Wilson Fisk. The hand has fallen. Once Wilson Fisk falls, he'll be in charge of Hell's Kitchen. Harry is about to take over Hell's Kitchen. The crazed trilobite maggot charged toward Wilson Fisk. Lizardman Wilson is still very powerful. These trilobite maggots are no match for him. Even these trilobite maggots couldn't withstand a single attack from him. However, their sheer numbers were overwhelming, like ants, they surrounded the lizardman Wilson. Even Natasha, Grant, and Spider-Man dared not approach. They quickly moved away from the battlefield. Director Nick Fury, Natasha said to Nick Fury, the director of SHIELD, who was on the line. Nick Fury sat in his office, hacking into the cameras at the battlefield in front of the Osborn Corporation and observing the situation. Nick Fury has seen it all, from Spider-Man and Iron Man to Harry Osborn. I doubt even SHIELD can target Harry Osborn, Natasha said. Nick Fury was inherently suspicious, and he never really trusted Harry Osborn. But Harry Osborn's actions didn't resemble those of a villain. Instead, he frequently filmed Kamen Rider battle videos and posted them online. He seemed more like a young man seeking fame. Therefore, he has always adopted a strategy of appeasement and building a closer relationship with Harry Osborn. But looking at it today, even if Harry Osborn became the villain, they had no way to retaliate. Harry's Kamen Rider armor and Humagears are too powerful. SHIELD would definitely lose to them unless they used nuclear weapons. Nick Fury watched the surveillance video quietly, observing Harry and pondering how to deal with Harry Osborn. Suddenly, Nick Fury spotted a figure in red and gold armor next to Harry. Iron Man, Tony Stark, Nick Fury murmured. He had just seen Tony Stark's battle scene. It was also groundbreaking technology, far ahead of its time. If it were a genius like Tony Stark, he would definitely have a chance to target Harry Osborn. Nick Fury looked at Tony Stark's red and gold armor and thought of the Invincible Hulk. It seems we need to contact Tony and Dr. Banner as soon as possible. The Avengers plan needs to be completed as quickly as possible. Chapter 39 Wilson and Number 039, S Resurgence. The trilobite maggots relentlessly pounced on the lizard man Wilson. Even if none of them were a match for Wilson, there were simply too many of them. When he killed 500 trilobite maggots, the lizardman Wilson was like a god of war. He had already shown a noticeable decline in physical strength when he killed 1,000 trilobite maggots. By the time Wilson had killed 1,500 trilobite maggots, his speed and strength were noticeably inferior to before. When he finally killed 2,000 trilobite maggots, the invincible lizardman Wilson could no longer stand and collapsed. Scatter, Harry commanded, ordering the Shamrock Witches to disperse. Wilson, the lizard man, had no wounds on his body, but his head was covered in blood and healing very slowly. It seems that the speed of self-healing is also related to physical strength. Since Wilson the lizard was already at his limit, Harry couldn't let the trilobite witcher steal the kill. He had to do it himself. After all, he still had to edit his own handsome videos and post them on the internet to increase traffic. The lizard man, Wilson, shakily got up from the ground and stood up straight. Even when he was at his last gasp, Wilson Fisk rose again thanks to his tenacious spirit and indomitable will. Clap clap clap. The sound of clapping rang out. Wilson Fisk, your defense is indeed extremely strong. Among all the people I have seen, none can rival you. In terms of defense alone, I would call you the strongest. Harry clapped his hands and said. Lizardman Wilson's defenses are indeed terrifying, even these trilobite maggots couldn't break through his body's defenses. Only the most vulnerable part of his head was injured, and his injured head is still slowly healing. I've spent my whole life turning defeat into victory, and it's not over yet, you brat. Although the lizard man Wilson was trembling, his words were powerful and resonant. It was hard to believe that someone who had exhausted himself could say such words. Wilson Fisk truly lived up to his reputation as a monster. Hearing Wilson's words, Harry laughed instead of getting angry, because he had the upper hand. If this could make Wilson Fisk unleash his full power and defeat everyone present, then this book should be renamed. Is that so? But I'll decide how the story ends. Harry picked up the authorized destroyer and switched to its gun form. The gun barrel focused energy, firing an energy projectile aimed directly at the lizardman Wilson's head. With sheer willpower, Wilson the lizard man managed to brace himself and block the attack with his arm. Then, using both hands and feet, he ran and leaped towards Harry Osborn in the sky. This strike used all his strength. If it missed, Wilson Fisk would have no strength left to fight. Die, the lizardman Wilson roared inwardly, hoping the attack would work. Even if it's a one-for-one trade, he'd rather die together with Harry. Unfortunately, Harry had already used the artificial intelligence Zea to calculate all of Wilson's movements. Kamen Rider Destroy, Kamen Rider Death, Kamen Rider Jin, Kamen Rider Rai. Having already obeyed Harry's orders and prepared below, the four of them unleashed their ultimate attacks together before the lizardman Wilson even got close. The four Kamen Riders unleashed their rider kick together, kicking the lizard man Wilson from below. Although the kick only landed on Wilson Fisk, it didn't break his defense. But the impact caused him to fly upwards prematurely when he got close to Harry. As Harry had predicted, the lizardman Wilson arrived right in front of him. Harry Osborn waited for a long time before picking up the authorized destroyer, which had already transformed into an axe. Instantly activate the ultimate attack. The power of the High Leap Locust program Ascension key is injected into the authorized destroyer. Pull the trigger after the sound effect Progress key confirmed. Ready for Buster, plays, and the machine will start with the sound effect Buster Bomber. The axe blade, wreathed in fluorescent yellow electronic light, slashed toward the lizardman Wilson's head. Wilson Fisk, who was already powerless to resist, could only watch helplessly as Harry attacked. This attack was incredibly destructive, severing the lizardman Wilson's head and causing it to explode, smashing his skull to pieces. In the instant his head flew off, Wilson Fisk recalled his deceased wife. "I'm so glad to see you again, Vanessa." Wilson's headless corpse fell heavily to the ground. Lizardman Wilson is offline, Wilson Fisk can no longer rise to prominence. "Is the battle over?" a voice came from outside the street. As everyone looked, Captain America Steve Rogers appeared on the battlefield, wearing a red, white and blue stars and stripes uniform. He ran here. Captain America Steve Rogers, who came to New York to help at Nick Fury's request, didn't encounter a single enemy along the way. All the ordinary people were captivated by the green smoke summoned by the evil beast. He relied on his super soldier body and unwavering willpower to become immune to the green fog. With no enemies and no ordinary civilians to save, Captain America Steve Rogers had no choice but to head to the Osborn Corporation building, where the sounds of fighting were still very loud. Captain America Steve Rogers finally arrived at the battlefield, only to find no enemy, leaving behind only a few corpses. "Wow, Captain America!" Spider-Man Peter flew over first. He had read Captain America comics since he was a child and could be considered a Captain America fan. "Is it the real person? Or is it cosplay? Hey buddy, you really look like Captain America." Peter Parker, the excited Spider-Man, stammered incoherently. Although Peter believed Captain America had already sacrificed himself, this person looked so much like the real Captain America, almost exactly like the wax figure in the museum. Just when Captain America Steve encountered such a talkative person for the first time and didn't know how to deal with him. Harry Osborn flew down from the sky and extended his right hand to Captain America, Steve Rogers. "Hello Captain America, Steve Rogers, I'm Harry Osborn." Finally, someone came to Captain America Steve's rescue, and he ignored the talkative Peter and extended his right hand to Harry. "Hello, Harry, did you eliminate all these enemies?" Captain America, Steve Rogers, sensed the immense power within the other person through their handshake. Also gathered behind Harry Osborn were Destroyer.net, Natasha, and Grant. Analysis revealed that this person was the leader on the battlefield. "Peter, keep filming." Harry ignored Captain America and turned to Peter beside him. Peter was speechless after hearing Harry's words. "Harry, why did they make me the photographer? Aren't you going to take the photos? There's a photography fee for this. If you don't want to take them, I'll let Natasha take them." "Natasha." Harry called out Natasha's name. Natasha, standing behind Harry, was speechless. Wearing a Kamen Rider mask, she glared at Harry from behind, but still obeyed and took a step forward. Upon hearing that there was money to be made, Peter's eyes instantly lit up with greed, and he completely forgot about his idol, Captain America, Steve Rogers. After all, Peter wanted to share some of the burdens of life with Aunt May. "Spider-Man photographer is online, at your service." Harry only spoke to Captain America Steve after seeing Peter continue filming. "That's right, all the enemies were wiped out by our Thunder Commandos." "You're too late, Steve Rogers," Harry said presumptuously. Captain America Steve Rogers never expected that Harry, who had been so polite just moments before, would suddenly change his attitude. But he was indeed late, and the upright Captain America, Steve Rogers, did not make excuses for himself. He was about to apologize to Harry, but Harry had already turned and left. He was deliberately provoking Captain America. To be honest, he had no ill will towards Captain America, Steve Rogers. But all of America loves him. Captain America is the spirit of America, the will of a superhero. So Harry needs a lot of malice points to defeat him in order to unlock the next technology in ARK. The Locust program with nanotechnology-based metal atom clusters sublimation key. Chapter 40 Venom Gwen? Peter looked at Harry helplessly, but could only film him. Although Harry and his idol Steve Rogers didn't get along very well. But Harry Osborn did save the entire city of New York today, it would have been difficult for him to deal with that giant lizard. Harry Osborn and his men stood side by side, with him in the center, taking the main seat. Wilson Fisk's body stood before them. Harry watched as Peter set up the camera, signaling him to take good care of the filming. Then he struck a pose in front of the camera and deactivated his transformation. He revealed his handsome 18-year-old face, Harry Osborn. He said in a deep voice, "The enemy that disrupted the peace of New York has finally been eliminated." Then, blah blah blah, he rambled on and on about saving the world, defeating the enemy with great difficulty, and how evil cannot be escaped, all those melodramatic, Chiyunibu-esque lines. "We are the embodiment of justice, the Thunder Commandos." Finally, Ha used this sentence to conclude. He really is a delusional teenager. Even the flamboyant Iron Man Tony couldn't understand Harry's behavior. "Am I out of touch? What kind of era is this?" Captain America Steve Rogers exclaimed, deeply moved by this behavior he could never understand in his life. Honestly, Harry's behavior was really childish and incredibly awkward. Natasha didn't dare to undo her transformation after that. Even Grant, who had brainwashed himself, was so embarrassed that the memories deep in his mind began to waver, and he almost shouted "Hail Hydra!" Harry instructed Humajir to take the camera away, and then quickly left the scene. Yes, he was a little embarrassed, but he didn't want to lose face for the sake of traffic. Dreaming of becoming a major internet celebrity. Shaw. Harry's goal is to become the ruler of the earth. Is it pathetic to do childish things to achieve that goal? Not at all. It's better than that dead giant lizard, right, Wilson Fisker? After Harry left, Tony Stark, Iron Man, was the first to leave the scene. He understood from this battle that quantity was the deciding factor on the battlefield, and he planned to go back and build dozens of his remote-controlled Iron Man robots first. Spider-Man Peter suddenly remembered something and shouted loudly. Harry, my money! You forgot to give it to me. My money! Spider-Man Peter also left, chasing after Harry Osborn. He may have forgotten that there was a woman waiting for news of him on the roof of the Osborn Corporation building. Seeing these superheroes who could fly and leap across the sky, Steve Rogers once again felt out of touch with the times, unsure of what else he could do in this world. Finally, Steve Rogers also left. He was going to find Peggy Carter, an elderly woman in her 90s, the woman he had initially been too afraid to face, but now he had mustered the courage. After the superheroes left, SHIELD agents arrived at the battlefield. They packed up the bodies of all the villains present, including Wilson Fisk. Harry now knows that a force is targeting him from behind, starting with the Rhino and ending with Wilson the Lizard. Although fighting supervillains can earn you a lot of emotion points. But he's not the kind of person who would stay silent if he was targeted. After Harry returned to Osborn Villa, he first arranged for Humajir to edit the video. Then he took out his phone and dialed Nick Fury's number. Commander Fury, I need your help, Harry said. What kind of help? Nick Fury had a vague idea of what Harry was up to, because Black Widow Natasha had contacted him, but he couldn't show it. I need you to investigate the conspiracy behind the New York incident, the one that led the doctor, and the one involving that superpowered girl. Notify me immediately if you find out their whereabouts. Harry didn't know the identity of the genetic lab doctor, because this guy hadn't left any information about him within the Osborn group, and it was estimated that only Norman Osborn knew his identity. Therefore, he needs to use the power of SHIELD to thoroughly investigate these two supervillains, as well as the organizers hidden behind them. After all, although Harry controlled the Osborn Corporation, its satellites weren't advanced enough to be as formidable as S.H.I.E.L.D's global surveillance capabilities. Harry's two artificial intelligences, Zea and Ark, exist in Harry's sea of consciousness. At this stage, he is not yet able to oversee the entire globe like SHIELD. Okay, Harry, I'm willing to help you with this. After all, we're on the same side, aren't we? Nick Fury said. He didn't want to ruin his relationship with Harry Osborn, and he was willing to accept Harry's request as long as it wasn't excessive. Meanwhile, Peter finally caught up with Harry's men, but didn't see Harry anywhere. He suddenly remembered that he had left Gwen Stacy on the rooftop of the Osborn Group building. Peter, no longer thinking about money, quickly flew towards the Osborn building, swinging on his spider web. Because the secretary-type Humajir Izzy has arrived at the Osborn building, she is now leading 10 Humajirs to inform people that the building is safe. Gwen Stacy also learned of the news. She and the other employees went downstairs. Many of her former colleagues had died in the attack. Gwen looked sadly at the ruined office. Her sense of justice is no less than that of any superhero. In the corner, there was a black, liquid-like life form that sensed Gwen's justice. This black mass of life is an alien organism, the symbiote Venom. Venom was kept at the very bottom of the Osborn Corporation, but it was too dangerous, so even Norman Osborn dared not leave it too obviously. It has been hidden in a secret room. To this day, in horror, the Scorpion Man broke into the secret chamber and discovered the Venom. However, Venom was thrown back by the terrifying sonic glove. He loathed vibrations and flames, so he quickly fled the secret chamber after being thrown back. It grew from the size of a fingernail to the size of a tennis ball by devouring the flesh and blood of mice. Venom knew that as a symbiote, it would have difficulty regaining its former strength if it did not fuse with other life forms. So now it senses Gwen Stacy's justice, and it feels that this life form is very suitable to be its host. Brave Venom. Undeterred by difficulties, Venom slowly crawled from the ground towards Gwen Stacy, and finally it reached Gwen's feet. End of the video.